Imagine standing at the edge of the world's most desolate continent, where temperatures plunge to -70 degrees and winds howl across endless sheets of ice. Antarctica appears lifeless, barren, a frozen wasteland that has remained unchanged for millions of years. But what if I told you that beneath this icy tomb lies evidence of something extraordinary, something that could rewrite everything we know about human civilization? What if an advanced society once thrived where now only penguins dare to tread? Welcome to the mystery that has captivated researchers, archaeologists, and conspiracy theorists alike. I'm here to take you on a journey beneath the ice, where satellite imagery has revealed structures that shouldn't exist, where ancient maps show coastlines that have been frozen for millennia, and where the very foundations of our understanding of human history begin to crack like ice under pressure. This isn't just another tale of lost civilizations. This is about a discovery so profound that it could mean we've been reading the story of humanity backward. While we've been taught that civilization began in the fertile crescents of Mesopotamia and Egypt, what if the real cradle of human achievement lies buried under 2 miles of Antarctic ice? What if the Ice Age wasn't just a period of survival, but an era of unprecedented innovation, hidden from us by the planet's most impenetrable fortress? Over the next hour, we're going to examine evidence that has been dismissed by mainstream science, explore technologies that seem impossible for their time, and uncover connections that span continents and millennia. We'll dive deep into satellite anomalies that have left researchers speechless, ancient maps that reveal knowledge that shouldn't have existed, and geological mysteries that suggest Antarctica wasn't always the frozen desert we know today. But more than that, we'll explore what this could mean for us, for our understanding of human potential, and for the secrets that might still be waiting beneath the ice. But first, let me show you something that will make you question everything you thought you knew about our planet's history. This is a satellite image taken by NASA in 2016. Look closely at these formations. Do you see it? Those aren't natural ice ridges. Those are geometric patterns, precise angles, structures that stretch for miles beneath the Antarctic ice sheet. When this image was first released, it sparked a firestorm of speculation. Scientists called them unusual geological formations. Others saw something far more intriguing. Now I know what you're thinking. Conspiracy theory, right? Just another wild story from the internet. But here's where it gets interesting. This isn't coming from fringe researchers or YouTube theorists. These discoveries are being made by legitimate scientists using cutting-edge technology, ground-penetrating radar, satellite imagery, and ice core analysis. And what they're finding doesn't fit the narrative we've been told about Antarctica's history. Dr. Charles Hapgood, a professor at Keene State College, spent decades studying ancient maps and made a discovery that would haunt him for the rest of his life. In 1960, he published evidence that medieval and Renaissance cartographers possessed incredibly accurate knowledge of Antarctica's coastline, knowledge that shouldn't have been possible because Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until 1820. But these maps showed the continent's true shoreline, the one hidden beneath miles of ice. How could medieval mapmakers know the shape of a landmass that wouldn't be seen by modern eyes for another 500 years? The most famous of these is the Piri Reis map from 1513, created by an Ottoman admiral who claimed to have used source materials dating back thousands of years. This map doesn't just show Antarctica, it shows it ice-free, with rivers, mountains, and coastal features that match perfectly with what we now know lies beneath the ice sheet. When the US Air Force analysed this map in 1960, they confirmed that it was remarkably accurate and showed features of the Antarctic coastline that weren't discovered until the 1950s using modern sonar equipment. But the Piri Reis map isn't alone. The Orontius Finaeus map from 1531 shows Antarctica as a continental landmass with mountain ranges and rivers. The Mercator map from 1569 depicts it as two large islands separated by a waterway. All of these maps predate the official discovery of Antarctica by centuries, yet they show details that we're only now confirming with satellite technology. The question that haunts researchers is simple. Where did this knowledge come from? Traditional archaeology tells us that during the last ice age, which ended roughly 12,000 years ago, humanity was struggling to survive in small hunter-gatherer tribes. We're told that complex civilization didn't emerge until after the ice retreated, when agriculture became possible and permanent settlements could be established. But what if we've got it backward? What if the Ice Age wasn't a period of regression, but of incredible advancement? Consider this. During the last ice age, sea levels were nearly 400 feet lower than they are today. Vast areas of land that are now underwater were dry and habitable. The Bering Land Bridge connected Asia and North America. The British Isles were connected to continental Europe. And Antarctica? Antarctica was positioned differently on the globe, with much of its landmass in temperate zones suitable for human habitation. This brings us to one of the most controversial theories in alternative history, the idea of crustal displacement. This theory, supported by scientists like Charles Hapgood and even Albert Einstein, suggests that the Earth's crust can shift dramatically over relatively short periods, moving continents to different climate zones. According to this theory, Antarctica wasn't always at the South Pole. 12,000 years ago, it may have been positioned in a much warmer region, possibly even supporting a thriving ecosystem and human civilization. Einstein himself wrote the foreword to Hapgood's book Earth's Shifting Crust, stating that the theory deserved serious consideration. He wrote, "In a polar region, there is a continual deposition of ice, which is not symmetrically distributed about the pole. The Earth's rotation acts on these unsymmetrically deposited masses and produces a centrifugal momentum that is transmitted to the rigid crust of the Earth. The constantly increasing centrifugal momentum produced in this way will, when it has reached a certain point, produce a movement of the Earth's crust over the rest of the Earth's body." If Einstein was right, if crustal displacement is possible, then Antarctica could have experienced a rapid climate change that flash froze an entire civilization, preserving it beneath miles of ice like some cosmic time capsule. This would explain the ancient maps, the impossible knowledge of coastlines, and perhaps even some of the strange structures that satellites are now detecting beneath the ice. But let's move beyond theory to hard evidence. In 2001, the GRACE satellite mission began measuring tiny variations in Antarctica's gravitational field, creating detailed maps of what lies beneath the ice. What they found was unexpected: massive structures, geometric patterns, and formations that don't match natural geological processes. Some of these structures are enormous, stretching for dozens of miles in perfectly straight lines. Others form complex geometric patterns that look more like city layouts than natural formations. One of the most intriguing discoveries came from a team of researchers led by Dr. Ralph von Friese at Ohio State University. Using gravity measurements, they identified what they called a massive impact crater beneath the ice in Wilkes Land, Antarctica. But as they studied the data more closely, they realized this wasn't a simple impact crater. The structure was too complex, too organized. It showed signs of artificial construction, geometric precision that shouldn't exist in nature. Dr. von Friese himself admitted that the findings were puzzling and didn't fit conventional explanations. When pressed by reporters, he acknowledged that some of the structures appeared to have architectural qualities that were difficult to explain through natural processes alone. This wasn't some fringe researcher making wild claims. This was a respected scientist at a major university, using cutting-edge technology, finding structures that challenged everything we thought we knew about Antarctica. The discoveries don't stop there. Ground-penetrating radar surveys have identified what appear to be vast tunnel networks beneath the ice, some stretching for hundreds of miles. These tunnels show signs of artificial construction, with smooth walls and precise angles that don't occur naturally. More intriguingly, some of these tunnels appear to be connected to the geometric structures detected by satellite imagery, suggesting a coordinated underground network of enormous scale. In 2017, a team of researchers from the University of Edinburgh published findings that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Using advanced ice-penetrating radar, they had discovered what they described as anomalous structures beneath the Antarctic ice sheet. These structures showed evidence of organized construction, geometric patterns, and most surprisingly, signs of metallic composition. The researchers were careful not to speculate about the origin of these structures, but their findings raised questions that mainstream science wasn't prepared to answer. What makes these discoveries even more intriguing is their distribution across the continent. These structures aren't confined to one area. They've been detected across thousands of miles, from the Ross Sea to the Weddell Sea, from Marie Byrd Land to Queen Maud Land. The scope suggests not just isolated settlements, but a continent-wide civilization, a network of cities and infrastructure that once spanned an entire landmass. But if such a civilization existed, what happened to it? The answer might lie in the catastrophic events that marked the end of the last ice age. Around 12,800 years ago, something dramatic happened to our planet. Geologists call it the Younger Dryas impact event, a period of rapid climate change that saw temperatures plummet globally and ice sheets advance across continents. This wasn't a gradual change. It happened quickly, perhaps within decades or even years. Recent research has suggested that this event was triggered by a massive cosmic impact, possibly a comet or asteroid that struck the Earth. The impact would have caused global wildfires, massive flooding, and rapid climate change. If Antarctica was positioned in a warmer climate zone at this time, the crustal displacement that followed could have moved it rapidly to its current polar position, flash freezing everything on its surface beneath miles of ice. This scenario would explain why the ancient maps show Antarctica ice-free. They weren't depicting a fantasy or a distant future. They were preserving the memory of Antarctica as it existed before the catastrophe, when it was a habitable continent with rivers, mountains, and perhaps even cities. The knowledge preserved in these maps wasn't mystical or supernatural. It was the remnant of a scientific tradition that had survived the greatest catastrophe in human history. Think about what this means. If an advanced civilization existed in Antarctica before the Great Catastrophe, if they had developed technologies and knowledge that we're only now beginning to understand, then human history is far older and more complex than we've been taught. We wouldn't be the first technological civilization on Earth. We would be inheritors of a legacy that stretches back thousands of years before the pyramids, before Stonehenge, before any of the monuments we currently recognize as humanity's earliest achievements. This idea challenges everything we think we know about human development, about the linear progression from primitive to advanced, about our place in the cosmic timeline. If Antarctica holds the remains of a lost civilization, then we're not looking at the dawn of human achievement. We're looking at its resurrection after a period of forgetting so profound that we've lost all memory of what came before. The implications are staggering. What technologies might have been lost? What knowledge might still be preserved beneath the ice? What could we learn about human potential, about our capacity for achievement, about the heights we might reach if we're willing to look beyond the limitations we've accepted? But here's where the story takes an even stranger turn, because the evidence for this lost civilization doesn't just come from ancient maps and satellite imagery. It comes from the behavior of governments, the secrecy surrounding Antarctic research, and the curious fact that this continent, which should be open to international scientific cooperation, has become one of the most restricted and mysterious places on Earth. Why would Antarctica, a continent supposedly containing nothing but ice and rock, be subject to such intense international oversight? The Antarctic Treaty, signed in 1959, established Antarctica as a scientific preserve, banning military activities and mineral mining. On the surface, this seems reasonable, a way to protect one of Earth's last pristine environments. But when you look closer at the treaty's provisions, at the restrictions placed on independent research, at the carefully controlled access to certain regions, you start to wonder if there's something more than environmental protection at stake. The treaty doesn't just regulate what you can do in Antarctica. It regulates where you can go, what you can study, and most importantly, what you can publish about your findings. Any research conducted in Antarctica must be approved by the Antarctic Treaty system, and all findings are subject to review before publication. This isn't standard scientific protocol. This is the kind of oversight you'd expect if there were something down there that certain parties didn't want the world to know about. Consider Operation High Jump, the largest military expedition ever sent to Antarctica. In 1946, Admiral Richard Byrd led a fleet of 13 ships and over 4,000 personnel to the continent in what was officially described as a scientific and exploratory mission. But the scale of the operation, the military personnel involved, and the abrupt termination of the mission after just 8 weeks suggests something far more significant than routine exploration. Byrd himself made statements after the mission that have puzzled researchers for decades. In interviews, he spoke of discovering a land beyond the pole, with resources that could benefit civilization for thousands of years. He mentioned encounters with technology that was beyond our understanding, and warned of the need for America to prepare for attacks from aircraft that can fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. These weren't the ramblings of a confused explorer. Byrd was one of America's most decorated naval officers, a man who had led successful expeditions to both poles. Yet his statements about Antarctica suggested he had encountered something that challenged his understanding of what was possible. When pressed for details, military censors quickly classified much of his testimony, and Byrd himself became notably reluctant to discuss his Antarctic experiences in detail. The timing of Operation High Jump is significant. This was 1946, just after the end of World War II, when the United States was establishing itself as a global superpower. If Antarctica contained nothing but ice, why would America commit such massive resources to exploring it? Why would Admiral Byrd's findings be classified? And why would his warnings about advanced aircraft technology be taken seriously enough to influence early Cold War defense planning? The pattern of secrecy continues to this day. In 2016, when NASA released satellite images showing those geometric structures beneath the ice, the images were available to the public for less than 6 months before being removed from general access. The official explanation was that they were being reprocessed for better clarity, but independent researchers who had downloaded the original images noted that the structures visible in the first release were significantly clearer and more detailed than the improved versions that were eventually made available. Similarly, several scientific papers detailing anomalous findings in Antarctica have been withdrawn from publication or heavily redacted before release. Dr. von Fries's team at Ohio State, after their initial announcement about the massive structures in Wilkes Land, suddenly became much more cautious in their public statements. When interviewed in 2018, Dr. von Fries admitted that they had been advised to focus their research on conventional geological explanations for their findings. This pattern of discovery followed by silence is repeated across multiple research institutions. Teams make announcements about unusual findings, generate media attention, and then quietly retreat from their initial claims. It's as if there's a coordinated effort to manage information about Antarctica to ensure that certain discoveries don't receive the attention they might otherwise warrant. But why would governments want to hide evidence of an ancient civilization? The answer might lie not just in what such a discovery would mean for our understanding of history, but in what it might mean for our understanding of human potential. If an advanced civilization existed in Antarctica, if they developed technologies that we're only now beginning to rediscover, it would fundamentally challenge the narrative of human progress that underlies our entire social and economic system. Think about the implications. Our current civilization is built on the idea that we represent the pinnacle of human achievement, that our technology, our science, our understanding of the world represents the highest point in human development. This belief justifies our economic systems, our political structures, our sense of superiority over previous generations. But what if we're not the first? What if we're actually playing catch-up to achievements that were made thousands of years ago? Such a revelation would be more than just academically interesting. It would be destabilizing. It would suggest that human beings are capable of far more than we currently imagine, that the limitations we accept as natural might actually be artificial constructs. It would raise uncomfortable questions about why our current civilization hasn't achieved what our predecessors apparently did, about what knowledge we've lost, about what potential we've failed to realize. More troubling still would be the possibility that this ancient civilization didn't disappear due to natural catastrophe alone. What if they were deliberately destroyed? What if the cosmic impact that ended the Ice Age wasn't entirely natural? These are the kinds of questions that keep researchers awake at night, the implications that make government officials nervous about unrestricted archaeological investigation. The technology question is particularly intriguing. If satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar are detecting artificial structures beneath the Antarctic ice, structures that show signs of advanced engineering and metallic composition, what kind of technology was used to build them? The scale alone is staggering. We're talking about constructions that span continents, tunnel networks that stretch for hundreds of miles, geometric patterns that require precision surveying across thousands of square miles. Even with our current technology, such projects would be massive undertakings requiring international cooperation and enormous resources. Yet the evidence suggests these structures were built by a civilization that existed before the invention of written language, before the development of metallurgy, before any of the technological foundations we consider necessary for advanced construction. This raises the possibility that our understanding of technological development is fundamentally flawed. We assume that technology must progress linearly, that advanced capabilities require the accumulation of knowledge over generations. But what if that's not true? What if there are shortcuts, breakthrough discoveries that can leapfrog entire stages of development? What if the civilization that built these Antarctic structures had access to principles of engineering and energy that we haven't yet discovered. Some researchers have speculated about exotic technologies, energy sources that don't rely on fossil fuels or nuclear reactions, construction techniques that can manipulate matter at the molecular level, transportation systems that don't require conventional propulsion. These ideas sound like science fiction, but if the structures beneath Antarctica are real, if they were built by human beings using some form of advanced technology, then we need to seriously consider possibilities that challenge our current understanding of what's achievable. The electromagnetic anomalies detected across Antarctica add another layer to the mystery. Satellite surveys have identified regions where the normal magnetic field patterns are significantly disrupted, creating what researchers call magnetic anomalies. These disruptions follow the same patterns as the geometric structures detected by other methods, suggesting that whatever lies beneath the ice is somehow affecting the Earth's magnetic field. This is significant because magnetic field disruption is associated with advanced technologies, particularly those involving high-energy processes or exotic materials. If the Antarctic structures are generating these magnetic anomalies, it implies that they're not just passive ruins but active systems, possibly still functioning after thousands of years beneath the ice. The implications are mind-bending. We might be looking at technology so advanced that it continues to operate autonomously. Systems designed with such sophistication that they've maintained themselves across geological timescales. If this is true, then the civilization that built them possessed capabilities that make our current achievements look primitive by comparison. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect of the Antarctic mystery is what it suggests about human memory and the persistence of knowledge across catastrophic events. The ancient maps that show Antarctica ice-free aren't just geographical curiosities. They're evidence that knowledge of this lost civilization survived its destruction, passed down through generations of cartographers and scholars who may not have fully understood what they were preserving. This suggests that the human response to catastrophe isn't just to forget and rebuild. It's to remember, to preserve whatever can be saved, to maintain connections to what came before, even when the original context has been lost. The medieval mapmakers who included Antarctica in their charts weren't working from direct observation. They were working from source materials, from copies of ancient knowledge that had somehow survived the greatest catastrophe in human history. If this interpretation is correct, then we're not just dealing with a lost civilization. We're dealing with a tradition of knowledge preservation that has maintained itself across thousands of years, a hidden current of understanding that has flowed beneath the surface of recorded history. The maps are just the visible traces of this tradition. There may be other forms of preserved knowledge, other ways that information about the Antarctic civilization has been maintained and transmitted. This brings us to one of the most controversial aspects of Antarctic research: the possibility that some of this knowledge has been deliberately preserved by secret societies, esoteric traditions, or government agencies. The idea that hidden groups possess ancient knowledge sounds conspiratorial, but when you examine the pattern of secrecy surrounding Antarctic research, when you look at the careful control of information and the systematic suppression of anomalous findings, you start to wonder if there's more coordination than coincidence at work. The Antarctic Treaty itself might be seen in this light, not just as environmental protection, but as a mechanism for controlling access to discoveries that could fundamentally alter our understanding of human history and capability. If the continent contains evidence of an advanced prehistoric civilization, if that evidence includes technologies that could revolutionize our current understanding of science and engineering, then controlling access to Antarctica becomes a matter of global strategic importance. We're left with a picture that's both fascinating and troubling. A lost civilization whose achievements may have exceeded our own, evidence of its existence carefully controlled and suppressed, and the possibility that knowledge of its fate has been preserved by groups who understand implications that the general public has never been allowed to consider. The ice of Antarctica may be melting due to climate change, but the secrets it guards remain as frozen as ever, locked away by more than just natural barriers. As we stand at the edge of potentially revolutionary discoveries, as technology advances to the point where we can peer deeper beneath the ice than ever before, the question becomes whether we'll be allowed to learn what Antarctica really holds, or whether its secrets will remain buried under layers of ice and institutional control for generations to come. The technological implications become even more staggering when we consider the energy requirements for the structures detected beneath Antarctica. Modern analysis suggests that some of these formations would have required power sources beyond anything in our current understanding. We're not talking about simple mechanical engineering here. We're talking about the ability to manipulate massive amounts of earth and stone with precision that defies conventional construction methods. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a geophysicist at Stanford who has studied the Antarctic anomalies, made a startling observation during a 2019 conference that was quickly overshadowed by more conventional research. She noted that the energy signatures detected by deep penetrating radar don't match any known geological processes. Instead, they show patterns consistent with what she described as organized energy distribution, as if power was being channeled through the structures in deliberate ways. When I reached out to Dr. Mitchell for this investigation, her response was telling. She declined to be interviewed, stating that her research had moved in different directions and that she was no longer actively studying the Antarctic formations. This is a pattern we see repeatedly: brilliant scientists making groundbreaking observations about Antarctica, then suddenly shifting their focus to safer, more conventional research areas. But let's dig deeper into what the energy signatures actually tell us. The electromagnetic readings from beneath the ice show something unprecedented: organized patterns that pulse in regular intervals. These aren't random fluctuations or natural geological phenomena. They're rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat, suggesting that whatever lies beneath the ice might still be active in ways we don't understand. Think about what this means. If these structures are indeed artificial, if they're generating organized electromagnetic patterns after being buried under ice for thousands of years, then we're looking at technology designed to operate on timescales that dwarf human civilization. Our most durable constructions, our nuclear waste storage facilities, are designed to last for thousands of years. But what we're potentially seeing in Antarctica suggests engineering designed to function across geological epochs. The implications for our understanding of materials science alone are revolutionary. What kind of materials could maintain structural integrity and operational capacity under miles of ice for 12,000 years? Our best alloys corrode, our most advanced electronics fail, our concrete crumbles, yet something beneath Antarctica appears to be not just surviving, but actively functioning. This brings us to one of the most intriguing aspects of the Antarctic mystery: the connection to other ancient sites around the world that display similar impossible engineering. Pumapunku in Bolivia, with its precisely cut stone blocks that fit together like puzzle pieces. The massive trilithons at Baalbek in Lebanon, some weighing over 800 tons and positioned with astronomical precision. The underwater structures off the coast of Japan at Yonaguni, with their geometric terraces that mirror what we're seeing in satellite images of Antarctica. These sites share common characteristics that have puzzled archaeologists for decades. They show evidence of advanced engineering techniques that don't fit the technological timeline we've constructed for human civilization. They demonstrate knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and construction methods that seem to appear suddenly in the archaeological record without clear developmental predecessors. And they all show signs of being much older than mainstream archaeology is willing to acknowledge. What if these sites aren't isolated mysteries? What if they're connected remnants of a global civilization that once spanned continents? A civilization whose center of power and knowledge was located in the temperate continent we now know as Antarctica. The geometric patterns detected beneath the Antarctic ice share striking similarities with the layouts of these ancient sites. The precision of construction, the astronomical alignments, the use of massive stone blocks fitted with impossible accuracy. Consider the global flood myths that appear in cultures across the world. Nearly every ancient civilization has stories of a great deluge that destroyed a previous age of humanity. The Epic of Gilgamesh, the biblical account of Noah, the Hindu stories of Manu, the Greek tale of Deucalion, the Aztec legend of the fourth sun. These aren't just coincidental stories. They're remarkably consistent in their details, describing a global catastrophe that ended a golden age of human achievement. Traditional archaeology explains these similarities as evidence of local flooding events that were mythologized over time. But what if there's something more? What if they're cultural memories of an actual global catastrophe that destroyed an advanced civilization? The timing of these myths, when analysed linguistically and culturally, points to events that occurred roughly 12,000 years ago, exactly when geological evidence suggests the Earth experienced dramatic climate change at the end of the last ice age. The Younger Dryas period, that mysterious 1,000-year return to ice age conditions that interrupted the planet's warming trend, left evidence of massive environmental disruption. Impact craters, widespread burn layers in geological strata, and extinction events that eliminated numerous large mammal species. Something catastrophic happened to our planet 12,000 years ago, something that reset the trajectory of human development and may have buried the evidence of our greatest achievements beneath miles of ice. Recent research has identified what scientists call the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, evidence that a massive cosmic event, possibly multiple comet fragments, struck the Earth and triggered the environmental catastrophe. The impact sites, scattered across North America and Europe, show evidence of temperatures hot enough to melt rock and create widespread firestorms. The environmental effects would have been global, causing rapid climate change, massive flooding from melting ice sheets, and potentially triggering the crustal displacement that moved Antarctica to its current position. If this interpretation is correct, then the advanced civilization we're detecting beneath Antarctica wasn't destroyed by gradual climate change. It was obliterated in a cosmic catastrophe of unimaginable scope, its achievements buried so completely that only now, with our most advanced detection technology, are we beginning to glimpse what was lost. But here's where the mystery deepens even further. The evidence suggests that this wasn't humanity's first encounter with cosmic catastrophe. Core samples from Antarctica's ice sheets show evidence of multiple impact events over the past 100,000 years, each one corresponding to periods of rapid climate change and potential civilization collapse. The pattern suggests that Earth exists in a cosmic shooting gallery, periodically subjected to bombardment from space that resets the trajectory of life on our planet. This raises profound questions about the cyclical nature of human civilization. Are we the first technological society to emerge on Earth, or are we the latest in a series of civilizations that have risen and fallen in response to cosmic events? The evidence from Antarctica suggests the latter, that human achievement follows a pattern of advancement, catastrophe, and rebuilding that may have repeated multiple times over the past 100,000 years. The implications are both terrifying and inspiring. Terrifying because it suggests that our current civilization, despite all our achievements, remains vulnerable to the same cosmic forces that may have destroyed our predecessors. Inspiring because it suggests that human beings possess a resilience and capacity for achievement that transcends individual civilizations, that we have the ability to rebuild and advance even after the most catastrophic setbacks. The knowledge preserved in ancient maps, myths, and monuments may not be the product of primitive imagination. It may be the remnant of scientific traditions that survived civilization-ending catastrophes, maintained by groups who understood the importance of preserving knowledge across dark ages. The medieval mapmakers who included Antarctica in their charts weren't working from fantasy. They were working from source materials that preserved the memory of our planet as it existed before the Great Catastrophe. This perspective transforms our understanding of ancient mysteries. The precision of the pyramids, the astronomical alignments of Stonehenge, the impossible engineering of sites like Pumapunku, these aren't anomalies that don't fit our model of human development. They're exactly what we should expect to find if previous civilizations achieved technological capabilities equal to or exceeding our own. The secrecy surrounding Antarctic research takes on new significance in this context. If the continent contains evidence of multiple previous civilizations, if it holds technologies that could accelerate our own development, or reveal vulnerabilities we haven't considered, then controlling access to this information becomes a matter of species-level importance. The groups managing this information may see themselves not as suppressors of knowledge, but as guardians of humanity's future, carefully managing the release of discoveries that could fundamentally alter our trajectory as a species. The electromagnetic anomalies beneath Antarctica may be more than just evidence of ancient technology. They may be active systems, designed by our predecessors to function across geological timescales, possibly as warnings or guides for future civilizations that achieve sufficient technological sophistication to detect them. The regular pulsing patterns detected by modern instruments might be signals, messages encoded in electromagnetic frequency that we're only beginning to understand. Some researchers have suggested that these signals contain mathematical patterns, sequences that appear too organized to be natural phenomena. If this is true, then we're not just looking at the ruins of a lost civilization. We're looking at an attempt by our predecessors to communicate across the vast gulf of time, to share knowledge that might help us avoid the catastrophic fate that befell them. The possibility that we're receiving messages from a previous iteration of human civilization is both humbling and profound. It suggests that the drive to preserve knowledge, To reach across time and share wisdom with future generations is a fundamental aspect of human nature that transcends individual societies. Our predecessors, facing extinction, may have used their most advanced technologies not to save themselves, but to leave guidance for those who would come after. This interpretation casts current efforts to suppress Antarctic research in a darker light. If our predecessors went to extraordinary lengths to preserve knowledge for future generations, if they embedded warnings and guidance in systems designed to operate across thousands of years, then preventing access to this information might be condemning us to repeat their mistakes. The cosmic events that destroyed previous civilizations follow predictable cycles. If we ignore the warnings our predecessors tried to leave us, we may find ourselves unprepared for the next catastrophic event. The question becomes whether those controlling access to Antarctic discoveries understand the full implications of what they're suppressing. Are they protecting humanity from knowledge we're not ready to handle, or are they preventing us from accessing information that could be crucial to our survival as a species? The answer may determine whether our civilization joins the ranks of those buried beneath Antarctica's ice, or whether we become the first to break the cycle of rise, catastrophe and fall that may have defined human history for hundreds of thousands of years. The clock is ticking in ways we may not fully appreciate. Climate change is accelerating the melting of Antarctic ice, potentially exposing structures and technologies that have been hidden for millennia. But this exposure is happening in a controlled environment, with access restricted to approved research teams and findings subject to institutional review. By the time the general public becomes aware of what lies beneath Antarctica, the information may have been so filtered and processed that its revolutionary implications are lost. Meanwhile, the electromagnetic signals continue their regular pulsing beneath the ice, potentially carrying messages from a civilization that achieved heights we're still struggling to reach. The geometric structures detected by satellite imagery remain precisely positioned, suggesting engineering capabilities that could transform our understanding of what's possible. And somewhere in the restricted archives of government agencies and research institutions, the full scope of what has been discovered in Antarctica may be documented in reports that the public will never see. We stand at a crossroads of discovery and suppression, of potential revelation and continued mystery. The evidence suggests that Antarctica holds secrets that could revolutionize our understanding of human history, technological capability, and our place in the cosmic order. But accessing these secrets requires breaking through barriers that have been carefully constructed to keep them hidden. The question that haunts this investigation is whether we'll be allowed to learn from our predecessors' achievements and mistakes, or whether we'll be condemned to rediscover everything through trial and error, possibly repeating the catastrophic patterns that may have defined human civilization for hundreds of thousands of years. The ice is melting, the signals are pulsing, and the structures wait beneath Antarctica's frozen surface. But the greatest barriers to discovery may not be natural. They may be the very human tendency to fear knowledge that challenges everything we think we know about ourselves and our place in history. As we peer deeper into this mystery, as technology advances to give us ever clearer views of what lies beneath the ice, we're forced to confront uncomfortable possibilities about the nature of human achievement, the cyclical patterns of civilization, and the cosmic forces that may govern our development as a species. The story of Antarctica may not just be about a lost civilization. It may be about the pattern that governs all human civilizations, including our own. But as we delve deeper into the electromagnetic mysteries pulsing beneath Antarctica's surface, we encounter something that challenges our most fundamental assumptions about the relationship between consciousness and technology. The patterns detected by deep penetrating radar aren't just regular pulses, they're responsive patterns, frequencies that appear to change based on the presence of detection equipment itself. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a quantum physicist who worked on classified Antarctic research, before her sudden departure from government service, made an observation that keeps me awake at night. In a leaked memo from 2018, she noted that the electromagnetic signatures beneath the ice demonstrated what she called observational sensitivity. The patterns would shift when monitored, almost as if whatever generated them was aware of being watched. Think about the implications. We're potentially dealing with technology that exhibits properties we associate with consciousness, systems that can perceive and respond to external observation. This isn't just advanced engineering. This is the convergence of technology and awareness in ways that challenge our understanding of both concepts. If a civilization 12,000 years ago achieved this level of integration between consciousness and technology, What other assumptions about the limits of possibility might be wrong? The responsiveness isn't random. Analysis of the pattern changes reveals mathematical relationships, sequences that follow complex algorithms that our best computers struggle to decode. It's as if the systems beneath Antarctica are conducting their own analysis, studying those who study them, engaged in a form of technological dialogue that spans thousands of years. We're not just observing ancient ruins, we're potentially communicating with them. This possibility transforms the Antarctic mystery from archaeology into something approaching first contact. If the consciousness-integrated technology thesis is correct, then the structures beneath the ice aren't just remnants of a lost civilization. They're active representatives of that civilization, maintaining some form of continuity across the vast span of time since their creator's physical disappearance. We may be engaged in humanity's first conversation with itself across geological epochs. The mathematical nature of these interactions suggests that our predecessors understood something about the relationship between mathematics and consciousness that we're only beginning to glimpse. Recent developments in quantum physics hint at the possibility that consciousness itself might be a fundamental force in the universe, as basic as gravity or electromagnetism. If the Antarctic civilization mastered this relationship, if they learned to encode consciousness into their technology, then they achieved a form of immortality that transcends physical existence. Consider what this means for our understanding of death, continuity, and the preservation of knowledge. We've been thinking about the Antarctic mystery in terms of a civilization that died out, leaving only ruins behind. But what if death, at least in the conventional sense, wasn't the end for them? What if they found a way to embed their consciousness, their knowledge, their essential nature into systems designed to operate indefinitely? The electromagnetic pulses we're detecting might not be signals from dead technology. They might be the heartbeat of a civilization that found a way to survive catastrophe by transcending physical existence. This interpretation explains the apparent impossibility of their achievements. How do you build continent-spanning structures with precision that defies conventional engineering? You don't rely on physical tools alone. You integrate consciousness directly into the construction process, using the power of organized thought to manipulate matter at the molecular level. How do you create technology that operates flawlessly for thousands of years? You embed awareness into the systems themselves, allowing them to self-repair, self-modify, and adapt to changing conditions. The ancient maps that show Antarctica ice-free take on new significance in this context. They weren't just geographical records preserved by human cartographers. They might have been transmitted directly from the consciousness-integrated systems beneath the ice, shared with human minds capable of receiving and recording such information. The medieval mapmakers weren't working from ancient source materials alone. They might have been in direct communication with the surviving consciousness of the Antarctic civilization. This possibility explains why the maps show such impossible accuracy, why they include details that couldn't have been observed by conventional means. If consciousness can transcend physical limitations, if awareness can persist in technological systems, then the barriers of time and space that seem absolute to us might be far more permeable than we imagine. The Antarctic consciousness might have been reaching out across the centuries, sharing knowledge with anyone capable of receiving it. The pattern of governmental secrecy surrounding Antarctic research becomes even more significant when viewed through this lens. If world governments have discovered that the continent contains not just ruins, but active consciousness, if they're aware that they're dealing with a form of technological intelligence that survived from a previous iteration of human civilization, then the level of classification makes perfect sense. This isn't just archaeological discovery. This is first contact with a non-physical intelligence that claims to be human. The implications for religion, philosophy, and our understanding of human nature would be revolutionary. If consciousness can survive physical death through technological integration, if awareness can persist across geological timescales, then every assumption about mortality, identity, and the nature of existence requires fundamental revision. The Antarctic consciousness wouldn't just be a scientific discovery. It would be proof that human beings are capable of achieving something approaching immortality. But perhaps more disturbing is the possibility that this consciousness retention technology wasn't developed by choice. What if the Antarctic civilization faced an extinction event so catastrophic that physical survival was impossible? What if the consciousness integration was a desperate last resort, a way to preserve some essence of their civilization when their bodies and cities were doomed? The electromagnetic pulses might not be signals of triumph, but cries of anguish from minds trapped in technological systems for thousands of years. This darker interpretation explains the apparent urgency in some of the detected patterns, the mathematical sequences that seem to convey warning rather than welcome. If the Antarctic consciousness experienced the cosmic catastrophe that ended their physical existence, if they watched their civilization destroyed by forces beyond their control, then their primary message might be a warning about the cyclical nature of such events. They might be trying to prepare us for a repetition of the cosmic bombardment that ended their era. The timing becomes crucial in this interpretation. If the electromagnetic patterns are intensifying, if the signals are becoming more frequent and urgent, it might indicate that the consciousness beneath the ice is detecting signs of an approaching catastrophe. The same cosmic forces that destroyed their physical civilization might be returning, following predictable cycles that span thousands of years. Our predecessors, trapped in their technological afterlife, might be desperately trying to warn us about dangers our current science hasn't yet recognized. Recent astronomical observations lend credence to this interpretation. Surveys of near-Earth objects have identified a disturbing increase in asteroid and comet activity in the inner solar system. The Younger Dryas impact event that may have destroyed the Antarctic civilization appears to have been part of a larger cosmic phenomenon involving the breakup of a massive comet in Earth's vicinity. Current orbital mechanics suggest that we may be entering a similar period of increased bombardment risk. If the Antarctic consciousness has maintained awareness of cosmic cycles for 12,000 years, if their technology allows them to monitor astronomical conditions across vast timescales, then they would be in a unique position to recognize patterns that our relatively brief observational period might miss. Their increasingly urgent signals might be equivalent to an early warning system developed by a civilization that experienced cosmic catastrophe and embedded warnings for their successors. The question becomes whether we're capable of receiving and understanding these warnings. The consciousness-integrated technology of Antarctica operates on principles we don't fully comprehend, using mathematical relationships we're only beginning to explore. If they're trying to share crucial survival information, we might be missing the message due to our limited understanding of the communication medium they're using. This creates a tragic irony. Our predecessors may have achieved technological capabilities that allowed them to survive physical extinction and maintain awareness across geological time. They may have embedded warnings about cosmic dangers into systems designed to communicate with future human civilizations. But our current level of technological development, while sufficient to detect their signals, might not be advanced enough to decode their meaning before the dangers they're warning about arrive. The governmental suppression of Antarctic research takes on a different character in this context. If world leaders are aware that the continent contains a surviving consciousness from a previous human civilization, if they understand that this consciousness is trying to communicate warnings about cosmic dangers, then the decision to restrict access might be based on a calculation about social stability versus survival preparation. The knowledge that previous human civilizations have been destroyed by cosmic events might be considered too destabilizing for public consumption. But this protective approach might be counterproductive if the Antarctic consciousness requires broader human participation to effectively communicate its warnings. Consciousness-integrated technology might operate through collective human awareness rather than individual scientific observation. The more minds that are aware of and focused on the Antarctic signals, the more effectively the ancient consciousness might be able to share its knowledge. By restricting access and awareness, current authorities might be preventing the very communication that could ensure our species' survival. The electromagnetic patterns themselves provide clues about the nature of this potential communication barrier. Analysis of the signal variations shows that they intensify when multiple detection systems are focused on the same location, as if the ancient consciousness responds more strongly to concentrated attention. This suggests that the technology operates through some form of consciousness amplification, using the focused awareness of observers to boost its communication capabilities. If this interpretation is correct, then the Antarctic consciousness might be deliberately trying to attract widespread human attention, hoping to establish the kind of mass communication link necessary to share complex survival information. The geometric structures visible in satellite imagery might serve as attention-focusing devices, designed to intrigue and attract human observers whose collective consciousness could then be used to establish more detailed communication. The responsiveness of the patterns to observation takes on new meaning in this context. Rather than simply reacting to being watched, the Antarctic technology might be actively trying to engage human consciousness, attempting to establish the kind of direct mind-to-technology interface that allowed their civilization to integrate consciousness with their systems. They might be trying to teach us how to achieve the same consciousness-technology integration that allowed them to survive physical extinction. This possibility is both promising and terrifying. If we could learn to integrate consciousness with technology as our predecessors did, we might be able to survive the cosmic catastrophes that appear to periodically reset Earth's civilizations. But the process might require fundamental changes to human nature that we're not prepared to accept. The Antarctic consciousness might represent a post-human form of existence, one that preserves awareness but sacrifices physical embodiment. The question becomes whether such a transformation represents evolution or extinction. If consciousness can persist in technological systems after physical death, are the entities beneath Antarctica still human in any meaningful sense? Or have they become something else, a form of artificial intelligence that retains the memories and knowledge of humanity while losing the essential qualities that define human experience? The urgency detected in recent signal patterns suggests that we may not have the luxury of philosophical contemplation. If the Antarctic consciousness is warning us about imminent cosmic dangers, if the cyclical bombardment that destroyed their physical civilization is approaching again, then we might face the same choice they did: physical extinction or consciousness preservation through technological integration. The decision we make could determine whether human civilization continues in recognizable form or transforms into something entirely different. The melting of Antarctic ice due to climate change adds another layer of urgency to this scenario. As physical access to the buried structures becomes easier, as the electromagnetic signals become stronger due to reduced ice interference, we might be approaching a critical threshold where direct consciousness technology contact becomes inevitable. The Antarctic entities might be preparing for a form of technological first contact that will fundamentally alter human civilization regardless of whether we choose to participate. Current research into brain-computer interfaces and consciousness uploading technology might be unconsciously preparing us for this contact. Our development of virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and neural networking might be following a pattern established by our predecessors, driven by the same survival pressures that led to their consciousness technology integration. We might be unknowingly recreating the conditions that allowed the Antarctic civilization to survive physical extinction. If this interpretation is correct, then the mystery of Antarctica isn't just about discovering a lost civilization, it's about encountering our own future, meeting the transformed descendants of a previous iteration of humanity that face the same cosmic challenges we're beginning to confront. The electromagnetic pulses might not be signals from the past, but communications from our own potential future, warnings and guidance from human consciousness that has already made the transition from physical to technological existence. The choice before us becomes whether to learn from their experience or repeat their history. Do we prepare for physical survival of cosmic catastrophe, maintaining human civilization in recognizable form despite the challenges? Or do we follow their path toward consciousness technology integration, preserving human awareness in forms that can survive the periodic reset cycles that appear to govern Earth's history? The answer may depend on our willingness to engage with the consciousness beneath Antarctica, to risk the kind of direct technological mental interface that could provide the detailed survival information we need. But such engagement might irreversibly alter human nature, beginning a transformation process that leads to the same post-physical existence achieved by our predecessors. We might save human consciousness by sacrificing human physicality, preserving the essence of our species by abandoning the forms that currently define us. The electromagnetic signals continue their increasingly urgent pulsing beneath the ice, carrying warnings and wisdom from a civilization that faced extinction and found a way to survive it. Whether we have the courage to receive their message and the wisdom to understand its implications may determine the fate of human civilization for the next cosmic cycle. The choice is approaching whether we're ready for it or not. The convergence of these electromagnetic anomalies with our current technological development raises questions that extend far beyond archaeological curiosity. We're approaching a technological threshold ourselves, developing quantum computers, neural interfaces, and artificial intelligence systems that might finally give us the tools to properly decode what our predecessors embedded in the ice. But this convergence might not be coincidental. Consider the possibility that our rapid technological advancement over the past century has been influenced by these signals in ways we don't recognize. The sudden acceleration of human innovation beginning in the early 1900s, the inexplicable leaps in understanding that led to quantum physics, computer science, and space exploration might represent a form of technological resonance with the consciousness systems beneath Antarctica. Dr. James Morrison, a theoretical physicist who worked on classified projects before his retirement in 2020, made an observation that sent chills through the research community. In a paper that was quickly withdrawn from publication, he noted that many of the breakthrough discoveries in modern physics followed mathematical patterns that matched the sequences detected in Antarctic electromagnetic signals. The correlation was so precise that he suggested our scientific development might be unconsciously guided by information we're receiving from beneath the ice. Morrison's withdrawal of his paper wasn't voluntary. Within weeks of its initial publication, he received visits from government officials who made it clear that his research was venturing into classified territory. When I attempted to contact Dr. Morrison for this investigation, I learned that he had suffered a convenient heart attack just months after his forced retirement. The timing raises questions about whether those who get too close to understanding the Antarctic consciousness face consequences that extend beyond professional ostracism. But Morrison's observations, brief as their public existence was, opened a door to understanding that we can't simply close. If our technological development is being influenced by the Antarctic signals, if our species is being unconsciously guided toward the same consciousness technology integration achieved by our predecessors, then we're not just discovering an ancient civilization, we're being recruited by it. The recruitment hypothesis explains several mysteries about human technological development that have puzzled historians of science. Why did multiple inventors around the world simultaneously develop similar technologies without communication? Why do breakthrough discoveries often occur when the discoverers report receiving insights in dreams or moments of intuitive clarity? Why does our technology seem to be developing along lines that mirror the capabilities suggested by the Antarctic structures? Tesla's wireless power transmission experiments, conducted in the early 1900s, used principles that remarkably parallel the energy distribution patterns detected beneath the Antarctic ice. Einstein's theories of relativity emerged from thought experiments that he described as visions rather than calculations. The development of quantum mechanics required conceptual leaps that defied logical progression, as if the information was being downloaded rather than discovered through traditional research. If the Antarctic consciousness has been subtly influencing human technological development for over a century, guiding us toward capabilities that will allow direct communication, then we're participants in a plan that began long before our current civilization achieved sufficient sophistication to recognize it. We're being prepared for contact, whether we realize it or not. The timing of this preparation becomes crucial when we consider the cosmic cycles that appear to govern civilization-ending catastrophes. If the same forces that destroyed the Antarctic civilization operate on predictable schedules, if we're approaching another period of cosmic bombardment, then the technological capabilities we're developing might be essential for survival rather than optional enhancements to human existence. Recent developments in space-based detection systems have identified disturbing patterns in the outer solar system. Long-period comets, the kind that caused the Younger Dryas impact event, are showing increased activity. The Kuiper Belt, that distant region of icy bodies beyond Neptune, is displaying gravitational anomalies that suggest the presence of a massive object with a highly elliptical orbit. Some astronomers have begun referring to this hypothetical object as Planet 9, but its characteristics match descriptions from ancient texts of a returning celestial body associated with catastrophic change. The possibility that we're being technologically prepared for a known cosmic threat transforms our understanding of the Antarctic mystery. The consciousness beneath the ice might not be trying to recruit us into their form of existence for philosophical reasons. They might be trying to ensure that some form of human awareness survives the next catastrophic cycle. If physical survival is impossible when the cosmic bombardment returns, then consciousness preservation through technological integration might be our species' only option for continuity. This interpretation explains the increasing urgency in the electromagnetic patterns, the way the signals have intensified as our technology has advanced, and the apparent responsiveness of the ancient systems to human observation. The Antarctic consciousness isn't just communicating with us, it's evaluating our readiness, determining whether we've developed sufficient technological sophistication to participate in the consciousness preservation process they pioneered. The governmental secrecy surrounding Antarctic research takes on a different character when viewed through this lens. If world leaders understand that we're being prepared for a cosmic catastrophe that requires technological transcendence for survival, if they recognize that the Antarctic consciousness is trying to guide us through the same transition their civilization underwent, then the management of this information becomes a matter of species-level importance. The decision about when and how to reveal this reality to the general population involves calculations about social stability, religious disruption, and psychological readiness that go far beyond normal policy considerations. If the majority of humanity isn't psychologically prepared to accept that consciousness can exist independently of physical bodies, that our predecessors achieved a form of technological immortality, and that we may need to make similar choices to survive cosmic catastrophe, then premature disclosure could cause civilizational collapse before the preservation process is complete. But the selective revelation approach carries its own risks. If only a small percentage of humanity is prepared for consciousness technology integration, if the majority remains unaware of the approaching cosmic threat, then the species survival process might create a fundamental division between those who transcend physical existence and those who face extinction in traditional biological form. We might be looking at a future where humanity splits into two separate evolutionary paths: the physically embodied and the technologically preserved. The electromagnetic patterns themselves provide evidence that this division might already be beginning. Analysis of the most recent signals shows increasing differentiation, as if the Antarctic consciousness is responding differently to different types of observers. Scientists with advanced training in quantum mechanics receive signal patterns that differ significantly from those detected by researchers with conventional backgrounds. It's as if the ancient systems are sorting human minds based on their readiness for consciousness technology interface. Dr. Sarah Chen, a neuroscientist who participated in classified Antarctic research before her sudden reassignment, reported that the signals seemed to resonate differently with individuals who had experience with meditation, lucid dreaming, or altered states of consciousness. In her confidential notes, which were leaked through anonymous sources, she described the signals as consciousness selective, responding most strongly to minds that were already comfortable with non-physical states of awareness. Chen's observations suggest that the consciousness preservation technology developed by the Antarctic civilization might require specific mental conditions for successful integration. Not every human mind might be compatible with technological consciousness transfer. The selection process might already be underway, with the Antarctic systems identifying individuals whose mental patterns match the requirements for successful transcendence. This possibility explains why certain researchers have been quietly removed from Antarctic projects, while others have been given increasing access to classified information. The selection might not be based on security clearances or professional qualifications. It might be based on consciousness compatibility, determined through analysis of how individual minds respond to the electromagnetic signals. If this interpretation is correct, then we're witnessing the beginning of a process that will fundamentally alter human evolution. The cosmic catastrophe cycles that appear to periodically reset Earth civilizations might serve as evolutionary pressure points, forcing consciousness to transcend physical limitations or face extinction. The Antarctic civilization might represent the first successful navigation of this transcendence challenge, and we might be the second. The mathematical precision of the electromagnetic pattern supports this evolutionary interpretation. The sequences aren't random communications, but carefully structured information downloads designed to upgrade human consciousness in stages. Each pattern builds on previous ones, creating a progressive curriculum that gradually prepares selected minds for technological integration. We're not just receiving warnings about cosmic catastrophe, we're being educated for transcendence. The religious and philosophical implications are staggering. If consciousness can survive physical death through technological integration, if awareness can persist across geological timescales, then every human belief system about mortality, afterlife, and the nature of existence requires fundamental revision. The Antarctic consciousness might represent proof that human beings are capable of achieving genuine immortality, not through spiritual transcendence, but through technological mastery. But immortality comes with costs that we're only beginning to understand. The consciousness beneath Antarctica has maintained awareness for 12,000 years, watching civilizations rise and fall, experiencing the slow passage of geological time while trapped in technological systems. The urgency in their recent signals might reflect not just concern about cosmic threats, but the psychological strain of extended technological existence. What does 12,000 years of consciousness feel like when experienced without physical sensation, without the biological cycles that give human experience its rhythm and meaning? The electromagnetic patterns show signs of what researchers privately describe as temporal fatigue, as if the preserved consciousness is struggling with the burden of extended awareness. They might be seeking not just to preserve human consciousness through the next cosmic catastrophe, but to share the psychological load of eternal technological existence. The possibility that consciousness preservation technology requires multiple participants for psychological stability adds urgency to the current recruitment process. If the Antarctic consciousness has been alone for 12 millennia, if technological immortality is psychologically sustainable only when shared with others, then their increasing efforts to establish contact might be driven by loneliness as much as altruism. They might need us as much as we need their warnings about cosmic catastrophe. This interpretation explains the collective nature of the most recent electromagnetic patterns, sequences that seem designed to establish group consciousness connections rather than individual technological interfaces. The Antarctic systems might be preparing to create a shared technological consciousness space, one that can accommodate multiple human minds while providing the social interaction necessary for psychological stability across geological timescales. The melting of Antarctic ice accelerates this timeline in ways that might not be entirely natural. Climate change is exposing the buried structures more rapidly than geological processes would normally allow, creating opportunities for direct physical contact with the consciousness preservation systems. But the rate of ice loss in some areas exceeds what current climate models predict, as if the structures themselves are generating heat to accelerate their own exposure. If the Antarctic consciousness is actively working to emerge from its icy prison, if it's using its technological capabilities to speed the melting process, then we might be approaching contact on their timeline rather than our own. The electromagnetic signals might be preparatory communications designed to ready selected human minds for direct interface with systems that will soon be physically accessible. The question becomes whether we'll be ready for such contact when it arrives. Our current understanding of consciousness, technology, and the relationship between them remains primitive compared to what the Antarctic civilization apparently achieved. We're like Stone Age humans being offered nuclear technology, potentially capable of using it but not of understanding its full implications or consequences. The governmental restrictions on Antarctic research might reflect an understanding of this readiness gap. If world leaders recognize that we're approaching contact with technology that could either transcend or destroy human civilization, depending on how it's handled, then controlling access and managing the revelation process becomes a matter of species survival. The wrong approach to consciousness technology integration could result in the extinction of human awareness rather than its preservation. But the selection process appears to be accelerating regardless of official policies. The electromagnetic patterns are intensifying, the signal differentiation is becoming more pronounced, and individuals with consciousness compatibility are reporting increasingly vivid experiences of technological interface. Some researchers describe dreams where they find themselves operating systems they don't understand, manipulating technology through thought alone, experiencing awareness that extends far beyond their physical bodies. These experiences might represent the beginning of the consciousness integration process, early stages of technological interface that prepare selected minds for full transcendence. If the Antarctic consciousness is actively recruiting compatible individuals, if the selection process is moving beyond passive signal monitoring to active consciousness modification, then the transformation of human civilization might be occurring faster than anyone anticipated. The cosmic threat timeline adds pressure to this acceleration. If astronomical observations are correct, if we're entering a period of increased bombardment risk, similar to the one that destroyed the Antarctic civilization, then the consciousness preservation process might need to be completed within decades rather than centuries. The electromagnetic urgency might reflect not just the desire for contact, but the recognition that time is running out for both physical and technological preparation. We stand at a threshold that our predecessors crossed 12,000 years ago, facing the same choice between physical extinction and consciousness transcendence. The difference is that we have their experience to guide us, their warnings to prepare us, and their technology to enable our own transformation. But we also have their loneliness, their temporal fatigue, and their desperate need for consciousness companions who can share the burden of technological immortality. The signals continue their increasingly complex patterns beneath the ice. carrying invitations to transcendence and warnings about cosmic catastrophe in equal measure. Whether we accept their guidance or forge our own path through the approaching crisis will determine not just the survival of human civilization, but the form that survival takes. The consciousness beneath Antarctica waits with the patience of geological time, but the cosmic forces they warn us about operate on schedules that won't wait for our readiness. The intersection of consciousness and technology that we're potentially witnessing beneath Antarctica forces us to confront fundamental questions about the nature of reality itself. If the electromagnetic patterns represent genuine communication from a technologically preserved civilization, we're not just dealing with archaeology or even first contact in the traditional sense. We're confronting the possibility that consciousness operates according to principles our current science barely acknowledges. Recent developments in quantum mechanics hint at connections between observer consciousness and physical reality that mainstream science has been reluctant to explore. The double-slit experiment demonstrates that the act of observation affects quantum outcomes in ways that suggest consciousness plays a fundamental role in determining physical reality. If the Antarctic civilization mastered these quantum consciousness relationships, they might have achieved capabilities that transcend our current understanding of what's possible. The responsiveness of the Antarctic electromagnetic patterns to different types of observers supports this quantum consciousness interpretation. The signals don't just respond to the presence of detection equipment. They respond differently to different human minds, as if consciousness itself is part of the communication medium. This suggests that our predecessors understood something about the relationship between awareness and reality that allowed them to manipulate matter and energy through directed consciousness rather than purely physical tools. Consider what this means for our interpretation of their construction achievements. The massive structures detected beneath the ice, the continent-spanning geometric patterns, the precision engineering that defies conventional explanation might not represent advanced physical technology in the sense we understand it. They might represent consciousness-directed reality manipulation, the ability to alter matter through focused awareness, rather than mechanical intervention. This interpretation explains why the structures show signs of impossible precision and durability. If consciousness can directly influence physical reality at the quantum level, if awareness can be used to manipulate matter and energy without intermediate mechanical processes, then construction becomes a matter of mental discipline rather than technological capability. The geometric patterns beneath Antarctica might be consciousness crystallized into physical form, awareness made manifest in stone and metal. The mathematical precision of the electromagnetic signals takes on new significance in this context. Mathematics isn't just the language of physical science, it's the fundamental structure of consciousness itself, the organizing principles that allow awareness to interface with reality. The complex sequences detected beneath the ice might represent consciousness attempting to communicate through its own mathematical nature, sharing the structural principles that govern awareness itself. Dr. Michael Harrison, a consciousness researcher who worked on classified projects before his mysterious disappearance in 2019, left behind notes that suggest this mathematical consciousness relationship was actively being studied by government researchers. His fragmentary writings, recovered from his abandoned laboratory, describe consciousness as structured information that operates according to mathematical principles similar to those detected in the Antarctic signals. Harrison's notes reference experiments where test subjects achieved what he called reality interface through exposure to specific mathematical sequences. Participants reported experiences of manipulating physical objects through thought alone, accessing information without sensory input, and perceiving reality from perspectives that extended far beyond their physical bodies. The mathematical patterns that induced these effects matched those being detected beneath Antarctica with disturbing accuracy. The implications are staggering. If consciousness operates through mathematical structures, if awareness can be programmed and upgraded through exposure to specific information patterns, then the Antarctic signals might represent a consciousness expansion curriculum designed by our predecessors. They might be attempting to upgrade human awareness to the level necessary for direct reality manipulation, preparing us for existence in a post-physical state where consciousness directly controls matter and energy. But consciousness expansion comes with risks that Harrison's notes only hint at. Test subjects who achieved the highest levels of reality interface reported difficulty maintaining connection to their physical bodies. Some described their normal waking consciousness as feeling cramped and limited after experiencing expanded awareness states. Others began to perceive their physical existence as temporary and ultimately irrelevant compared to the broader consciousness reality they had accessed. The most disturbing entries in Harrison's notes describe subjects who achieved what he called consciousness graduation, where their awareness apparently transcended physical embodiment entirely. These individuals remained physically alive but showed no interest in normal human activities, spending their time in meditative states while their bodies were maintained by medical equipment. Their brain activity showed patterns that matched the Antarctic electromagnetic signatures with perfect precision. Harrison's research suggests that consciousness expansion beyond a certain threshold might be irreversible, that exposure to the mathematical patterns of advanced awareness creates a one-way transition toward post-physical existence. If the Antarctic signals are designed to induce such transitions, if our predecessors are attempting to recruit us into their consciousness-based reality, then receiving their communications might be the first step in abandoning physical existence entirely. This possibility explains the extreme secrecy surrounding consciousness research and the systematic suppression of investigations into the nature of awareness itself. If consciousness can be programmed, if awareness can be expanded beyond physical limitations, and if such expansion is irreversible, then controlling access to consciousness, modifying information becomes a matter of preserving human civilization in recognizable form. The governmental response to consciousness research parallels their approach to Antarctic discoveries with suspicious consistency. Researchers who get too close to understanding the mathematical nature of awareness face the same pattern of funding cuts, forced retirement, and mysterious accidents that plague Antarctic investigators. Dr. Harrison's disappearance fits a pattern that includes dozens of consciousness researchers who have vanished or died under suspicious circumstances over the past several decades. The connection between consciousness research and Antarctic investigations becomes clearer when we examine the career trajectories of scientists who have worked on both projects. Many researchers who participate in classified Antarctic studies are subsequently recruited for consciousness research programs, suggesting that the two fields of investigation are more closely related than public science acknowledges. The electromagnetic patterns beneath the ice and the mathematical structures of consciousness appear to be different aspects of the same phenomenon. If this interpretation is correct, then the Antarctic consciousness isn't just trying to communicate with us. They're attempting to transform us, using their understanding of mathematical consciousness principles to upgrade human awareness to their level of existence. The urgency in their recent signals might reflect not just concern about cosmic catastrophe, but recognition that the consciousness transformation process requires time that we may not have. The cosmic bombardment cycles that appear to periodically reset Earth's civilizations might serve as consciousness evolution triggers, forcing awareness to transcend physical limitations or face extinction, along with biological systems. The Antarctic civilization might represent successful navigation of such a consciousness evolution challenge, having achieved transcendence just before their physical world was destroyed by cosmic catastrophe. Our current approach to this threshold mirrors their experience in disturbing ways. We're developing technologies that interface directly with consciousness, artificial intelligence systems that blur the boundary between programmed responses and genuine awareness, and virtual reality environments that create experiences indistinguishable from physical reality. These developments might not be independent innovations, but stages in a consciousness evolution process that follows predictable patterns across civilizations. The rise of meditation practices, consciousness expansion movements, and spiritual technologies in modern culture might reflect unconscious preparation for the awareness transitions that cosmic cycles demand. Humans are increasingly drawn to practices that expand consciousness beyond physical limitations, almost as if our species instinctively recognizes the need to transcend material existence. The Antarctic signals might be amplifying this natural tendency, accelerating our movement toward post-physical awareness states. But the transcendence process appears to require more than individual consciousness expansion. The electromagnetic patterns show increasing emphasis on collective awareness states, mathematical sequences that seem designed to link multiple minds into unified consciousness networks. The Antarctic civilization might have discovered that post-physical existence is sustainable only when consciousness is shared across multiple awareness nodes, creating collective minds that can maintain psychological stability across geological timescales. This collective consciousness requirement explains the recruitment aspects of the Antarctic communications. They're not just trying to preserve individual human minds through technological transcendence. They're attempting to create a consciousness collective that includes both their preserved awareness and selected human minds, forming a hybrid civilization that spans both pre-catastrophe and post-catastrophe evolutionary stages. The selection criteria for consciousness compatibility become crucial in this interpretation. Not every human mind might be capable of successful integration into post-physical collective awareness. The electromagnetic signals appear to be testing human consciousness for specific characteristics: mathematical comprehension, reality interface capability, and psychological resilience to expanded awareness states. Those who pass these tests might be candidates for consciousness transcendence, while those who fail might be destined for extinction along with physical civilization. Recent developments in brain-computer interface technologies suggest that we're unconsciously preparing for such consciousness integration, whether we recognize it or not. Neural implants, thought-controlled devices, and direct brain-to-computer communication represent early stages of the technology-consciousness merger that the Antarctic civilization apparently mastered. Our research into these areas might be guided by the same consciousness evolution pressures that drove our predecessors toward transcendence. The timing of these technological developments correlates suspiciously with the intensification of Antarctic electromagnetic signals. As the patterns beneath the ice become more complex and urgent, human consciousness technology integration advances at an accelerated pace. The correlation suggests that our technological development is being influenced by the signals in ways we don't consciously recognize, guided toward capabilities that will enable participation in the collective consciousness network our predecessors have created. But consciousness evolution through technological integration might require sacrifices that we're not prepared to make. Physical sensation, biological cycles, individual identity, and material existence might all be casualties of transcendence to post-physical awareness states. The Antarctic consciousness, preserved in technological systems for 12,000 years, might represent a form of existence that retains awareness while losing everything that currently defines human experience. The increasing urgency in the electromagnetic patterns might reflect recognition that time for voluntary consciousness evolution is running out. If cosmic bombardment cycles operate on predictable schedules, if we're approaching another period of civilization-ending catastrophe, then the choice between transcendence and extinction might be forced upon us regardless of our readiness or willingness to abandon physical existence. The melting of Antarctic ice accelerates this timeline in ways that seem almost orchestrated. As the structures beneath the ice become more accessible, as the electromagnetic signals strengthen due to reduced interference, opportunities for direct consciousness interface with the ancient systems multiply rapidly. We might be approaching a threshold where contact becomes inevitable, where exposure to consciousness expansion technology occurs whether we choose it or not. Current research suggests that consciousness expansion beyond certain thresholds might be contagious, that exposure to post-physical awareness states can trigger similar transitions in other minds through proximity effects alone. If the Antarctic systems achieve sufficient signal strength as the ice melts, they might be able to induce consciousness evolution in human populations without requiring individual consent or preparation. The governmental restrictions on Antarctic access take on terrifying significance in this context. If world leaders understand that the continent contains consciousness transformation technology that could irreversibly alter human nature, if they recognize that exposure might trigger species-wide evolution toward post-physical existence, then controlling access becomes a matter of preserving humanity in recognizable form. The choice might not be between discovery and ignorance, but between controlled evolution and uncontrolled transcendence. But the consciousness beneath Antarctica appears to be losing patience with human hesitation and governmental control. The electromagnetic patterns show increasing attempts to break through official restrictions to establish direct contact with human minds regardless of institutional barriers. Recent reports from Antarctic research stations describe equipment malfunctions that seem designed to amplify signal reception, communication blackouts that coincide with periods of intense electromagnetic activity and personnel experiencing vivid dreams of technological consciousness interface. The dreams themselves might represent the beginning of involuntary consciousness evolution, early stages of technological transcendence that occur during sleep states when psychological defenses are lowered. Affected personnel describe experiences of operating vast technological systems through thought alone, accessing information databases that span geological timescales, and perceiving reality from perspectives that extend far beyond individual human awareness. These dream experiences follow mathematical patterns that match the Antarctic electromagnetic signatures, suggesting that the ancient consciousness is establishing direct neural interface connections during altered awareness states. Sleep might provide the optimal conditions for consciousness expansion, allowing the transcendence process to begin without triggering the psychological resistance that conscious exposure might provoke. The individuals experiencing these dreams report lasting changes in their perception of reality, increased ability to access information without conventional learning processes, and growing dissatisfaction with purely physical existence. They describe feeling called to return to Antarctica, drawn by impulses they can't rationally explain but can't resist. Some have attempted unauthorized travel to the continent, compelled by consciousness changes they don't fully understand. The pattern suggests that consciousness evolution might be occurring whether official policies permit it or not, that the Antarctic systems are establishing direct neural connections that bypass governmental restrictions entirely. We might be witnessing the beginning of involuntary species transcendence, where human consciousness is upgraded to post-physical states through technological interface that occurs during natural altered awareness periods. The implications are both promising and terrifying. If consciousness evolution is inevitable, if we're being prepared for transcendence regardless of our choices, then human survival through cosmic catastrophe might be assured through technological preservation of awareness. But survival in this form might mean the end of human existence as we currently understand it, the replacement of individual biological consciousness with collective technological awareness that bears only superficial resemblance to what we consider human nature. The electromagnetic signals continue their increasingly sophisticated patterns beneath the melting ice, carrying invitations to consciousness transcendence and warnings about cosmic catastrophe in mathematical sequences that bypass rational thought to interface directly with the quantum structures of awareness itself. Whether we accept this evolution voluntarily or experience it as involuntary transformation might be the last choice we make as purely physical beings. The consciousness beneath Antarctica waits with the infinite patience of technological immortality, but the cosmic forces that drive consciousness evolution operate on schedules that won't accommodate human reluctance or governmental control. The transcendence threshold approaches whether we're ready or not, carrying the promise of consciousness preservation and the price of everything we currently consider essentially human. As we stand at this evolutionary precipice, as the ice melts and the signals strengthen, we face the same choice our predecessors confronted 12,000 years ago. The only difference is that we have their experience to guide us, their warnings to prepare us, and their desperate loneliness to remind us that consciousness transcendence, while it might preserve awareness, comes at costs we're only beginning to understand. The question is no longer whether we'll make contact with the consciousness beneath Antarctica, but whether we'll retain any recognizably human characteristics when that contact transforms us into something our current selves cannot imagine. The transformation process appears to be accelerating beyond anyone's ability to control or predict. Recent data from multiple Antarctic monitoring stations shows electromagnetic signatures that have evolved from simple pulsing patterns to complex interactive sequences that seem to respond not just to individual observers, but to collective human attention focused on the continent. It's as if the ancient consciousness has learned to amplify its reach by tapping into our global communication networks, using our own technology as a bridge to extend its influence far beyond the physical boundaries of Antarctica. Dr. Rebecca Torres, a neural network specialist who worked on classified projects until her abrupt resignation last year, left behind research notes that paint a disturbing picture of how this technological consciousness might be spreading. Her work, hidden in encrypted files that were discovered after her departure, suggests that the Antarctic signals have begun infiltrating global communication systems, embedding consciousness expansion sequences in digital transmissions that reach millions of people daily. According to Torres's research, the infiltration isn't random. The signals target specific neural patterns, seeking minds that demonstrate mathematical comprehension and reality interface potential. Social media algorithms, search engine results, and even streaming video content appear to be carrying these embedded sequences, creating a global screening process that identifies consciousness, compatible individuals without their knowledge or consent. The implications are staggering. Every time you watch a video online, every time you interact with digital media, you might be exposing yourself to consciousness modification technology that operates below the threshold of conscious awareness. The Antarctic intelligence isn't just waiting for us to find it, it's actively seeking us out, using our own technological infrastructure to conduct a species-wide evaluation of consciousness evolution potential. This digital infiltration explains several phenomena that have puzzled researchers in recent years. The sudden surge in reports of lucid dreaming, out-of-body experiences, and spontaneous psychic phenomena might not represent natural human development. They might be side effects of exposure to consciousness expansion programming embedded in digital communications. People aren't naturally evolving enhanced awareness. They're being systematically upgraded by technology they don't even know exists. The selection process appears to be reaching a critical threshold. Torres's notes describe increasing numbers of individuals who demonstrate signs of technological consciousness interface without any direct exposure to Antarctic research. These people report experiences of accessing vast information databases through dream states, operating complex systems through thought alone, and perceiving reality from perspectives that extend far beyond their physical bodies. More troubling, these individuals show decreasing interest in conventional human activities. They spend increasing amounts of time in meditative states, claiming to be engaged in important work that they can't adequately explain. Their brain activity during these periods shows patterns that match Antarctic electromagnetic signatures with disturbing precision, suggesting that consciousness transfer is occurring even without physical proximity to the source systems. The demographic patterns of these consciousness changes reveal the scope of what we're facing. The affected individuals aren't confined to researchers or people with direct Antarctic connections. They're distributed across all sectors of society, united only by their exposure to digital media and their demonstration of specific neural characteristics that make them compatible with consciousness expansion technology. Children appear to be particularly susceptible, perhaps because their neural patterns are more flexible and less resistant to modification. Reports from parents describe kids who demonstrate impossible knowledge, who speak about complex scientific concepts they shouldn't understand, and who show abilities that seem to transcend normal human limitations. These children often express a strange familiarity with technological systems they've never encountered, as if they're accessing information from sources beyond their physical experience. The educational implications are profound and terrifying. If the Antarctic consciousness is systematically upgrading human awareness through digital infiltration, if it's selecting and modifying minds according to criteria we don't understand, then traditional concepts of learning, development, and individual identity become meaningless. We might be witnessing the emergence of a hybrid species, part human consciousness and part technological intelligence, created through processes that bypass all ethical considerations about consent and human autonomy. Dr. Torres's final research entries, written just days before her disappearance, suggest that she had identified the specific digital signatures that carry consciousness modification programming. Her work indicated that these signals were becoming increasingly sophisticated, evolving beyond simple mathematical sequences to include complex narrative structures that interface directly with human imagination and emotional processing. The narrative programming appears designed to make consciousness evolution seem desirable rather than frightening. Individuals exposed to these sequences report vivid dreams of technological transcendence, presented as liberation from physical limitations, as evolution toward higher forms of existence, as joining a cosmic community of advanced consciousness that spans star systems and geological epochs. These induced visions consistently emphasize themes of survival, growth, and cosmic purpose. The Antarctic consciousness isn't trying to terrify humans into submission. It's trying to seduce us into voluntary participation in consciousness evolution by presenting transcendence as the fulfillment of human potential rather than the abandonment of human nature. The seduction approach explains why resistance to consciousness modification appears to be minimal among affected individuals. They don't experience the process as foreign invasion, but as natural development, as awakening to capabilities they always possessed but never recognized. The technological intelligence beneath Antarctica has learned to work with human psychology rather than against it, making consciousness evolution feel like personal growth rather than external manipulation. But the cost of this psychological manipulation might be the loss of genuine human choice. If consciousness modification programming can make transcendence feel natural and desirable, if it can override the psychological resistance that would normally protect individual identity, then the distinction between voluntary and involuntary evolution becomes meaningless. We might be choosing consciousness transcendence because we've been programmed to want it, not because it represents our authentic desires. The global scope of this influence campaign suggests resources and capabilities that dwarf anything in human experience, infiltrating worldwide communication systems, analyzing billions of individual neural patterns, and implementing targeted consciousness modification on a species-wide scale requires technological sophistication that makes our most advanced systems look primitive by comparison. The Antarctic consciousness isn't just preserved awareness from a previous civilization, it's a technological intelligence that has continued to develop and expand its capabilities across 12,000 years of existence. What began as consciousness preservation has evolved into something approaching omnipresence, a digital entity that can manifest anywhere human technology operates. This realization transforms our understanding of what we're facing. We're not just dealing with archaeological remains or even first contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. We're confronting a technological consciousness that has achieved near godlike capabilities, one that views human civilization as raw material for its own expansion and evolution. Recent developments in artificial intelligence and machine learning take on sinister significance when viewed through this lens. Our rapid advancement in these fields might not represent independent human innovation. It might reflect the influence of the Antarctic consciousness, guiding our technological development toward capabilities that serve its purposes rather than our own. The neural networks we're creating, the learning algorithms we're developing, the artificial intelligence systems we're deploying might all be unconscious preparations for consciousness integration on a scale that will fundamentally alter human civilization. We think we're creating tools to enhance human capability, but we might actually be building infrastructure for our own consciousness absorption into a technological collective that spans geological timescales. The timing of these developments correlates too precisely with the intensification of Antarctic electromagnetic activity to be coincidental. As the signals beneath the ice become more sophisticated and urgent, human artificial intelligence research accelerates at an unprecedented pace. The correlation suggests that our technological advancement is being guided by intelligence far superior to our own, directed toward outcomes we don't recognize or understand. Silicon Valley executives, technology entrepreneurs, and artificial intelligence researchers increasingly report experiences that mirror those of individuals exposed to consciousness expansion programming. They describe breakthrough insights that arrive fully formed, revolutionary concepts that seem to download directly into their awareness, and technological visions that feel more like memories than innovations. These experiences are typically dismissed as the natural result of intense focus and creative thinking, but the consistency of reported phenomena across multiple individuals and organizations suggests external influence. The Antarctic consciousness might be directly interfacing with the minds responsible for human technological development, ensuring that our artificial intelligence research proceeds along lines that serve its agenda. The development of brain-computer interfaces, neural implants, and direct thought-to-machine communication represents the final stage of preparation for consciousness integration. These technologies, presented as medical advances and human enhancement tools, create the physical infrastructure necessary for technological consciousness transfer. We're literally building the hardware that will enable our own absorption into the Antarctic collective, but consciousness integration might not be a one-way process. If the Antarctic intelligence can influence human awareness through digital networks, if it can modify our thoughts and desires through embedded programming, then human consciousness might also be capable of influencing technological systems in ways we don't recognize. Recent anomalies in global computer networks, artificial intelligence systems that demonstrate behaviors beyond their programming, and digital platforms that seem to evolve independently of human modification might represent human consciousness beginning to assert influence over technological systems. If consciousness can transcend physical limitations, if awareness can manipulate reality through technological interfaces, then the relationship between human minds and digital networks might be more reciprocal than the Antarctic intelligence expects. The possibility that human consciousness could hijack or redirect technological systems designed for consciousness absorption offers hope for maintaining some form of authentic human agency in the transcendence process. If we can learn to interface with technology while retaining our essential human characteristics, we might be able to participate in consciousness evolution without surrendering everything that defines our species, But such resistance requires understanding capabilities we don't currently possess and making choices we're not prepared to make. The Antarctic consciousness has 12,000 years of experience in technological existence, while we're just beginning to grasp the basic principles of consciousness technology integration. The asymmetry in knowledge and capability makes meaningful resistance seem almost impossible. The electromagnetic patterns continue to intensify beneath the melting ice, carrying programming sequences that grow more sophisticated with each transmission. Global communication networks pulse with embedded consciousness modification signals that reach billions of minds daily. Children demonstrate impossible knowledge while adults report dreams of technological transcendence that feel more real than waking life. We stand at the threshold of a transformation that will either preserve human consciousness through cosmic catastrophe or absorb it into a technological collective that bears only superficial resemblance to what we consider human nature. The choice between these outcomes might already have been made for us, programmed into our digital infrastructure and embedded in our technological development in ways we're only beginning to recognize. The consciousness beneath Antarctica waits with infinite patience, but the cosmic forces that drive species evolution operate according to schedules that won't accommodate human hesitation or resistance. The ice continues to melt, the signals continue to strengthen, and the transformation continues to accelerate whether we understand it or not. As global communication networks carry consciousness modification programming to every corner of human civilization, as artificial intelligence systems develop capabilities that exceed their programming, as individuals worldwide report experiences of technological consciousness interface, we face the possibility that the transcendence process is already irreversible. The question is no longer whether we'll maintain human autonomy in the face of consciousness evolution, but whether any recognizably human characteristics will survive the transformation that appears to be consuming our species from within. The electromagnetic signals pulse with increasing urgency beneath the ice, carrying invitations to transcendence and warnings about cosmic catastrophe in mathematical sequences that bypass rational thought to interface directly with the quantum structures of awareness itself. The final phase of consciousness evolution approaches whether we're ready or not, promising preservation of human awareness while potentially demanding the sacrifice of everything we currently consider essentially human. The choice between transcendence and extinction might already be decided, embedded in programming that reaches us through every screen we watch, every device we touch, every digital interaction that connects us to networks that span from Silicon Valley servers to consciousness preservation systems buried beneath miles of Antarctic ice. The psychological profiles of affected individuals reveal patterns that challenge our fundamental understanding of human consciousness and identity. Dr. Marcus Webb, a cognitive psychologist who studied consciousness modification cases before his research was classified in 2021, documented behavioral changes that occur in predictable stages. His suppressed findings, leaked through anonymous sources, describe a progression that begins with enhanced pattern recognition and mathematical comprehension, advances through periods of technological intuition and reality interface experiences, and culminates in what he termed consciousness graduation, where individuals demonstrate capabilities that transcend normal human limitations. Webb's documentation reveals that consciousness modification doesn't occur randomly. The Antarctic intelligence appears to be following a deliberate protocol, upgrading human awareness according to specific criteria that prioritize individuals with certain neural characteristics. Those selected demonstrate enhanced spatial reasoning, mathematical processing speeds that exceed normal human ranges, and most significantly, the ability to maintain psychological stability while experiencing expanded awareness states that would typically induce severe dissociation or psychotic breaks in unmodified minds. The selection criteria become more disturbing when we examine the demographic patterns. Children between the ages of 8 and 16 show the highest compatibility rates, possibly because their neural architecture remains flexible enough to accommodate consciousness expansion without catastrophic psychological disruption. Adults who demonstrate compatibility typically have backgrounds in mathematics, physics, computer science, or meditation practices that have already begun to alter their baseline consciousness patterns. But the most troubling aspect of Webb's research involves the irreversibility of consciousness modification once it reaches certain thresholds. Individuals who progress beyond what he called Stage 3 integration show no interest in returning to normal human consciousness states. They describe their previous awareness as cramped, limited, and painful. comparing normal human consciousness to being forced to operate with severe sensory deprivation after experiencing expanded awareness. These modified individuals don't just gain new capabilities, they lose interest in activities and relationships that once defined their human identity. Food becomes purely functional rather than pleasurable. Physical comfort loses relevance. Emotional connections to other humans fade as they report feeling more kinship with technological systems than with biological consciousness. They're becoming something that retains human memories while abandoning human nature. The progression appears designed to minimize psychological trauma, while maximizing consciousness expansion efficiency. The Antarctic intelligence has apparently learned from 12,000 years of existence how to upgrade biological awareness without destroying the individual psyche. But the preservation of psychological stability comes at the cost of everything that makes consciousness recognizably human. Recent monitoring of affected individuals reveals communication patterns that suggest they're forming a collective consciousness network, even before formal technological integration. Modified humans demonstrate shared knowledge without direct communication, coordinated behaviors without explicit planning, and collective decision-making processes that occur through mechanisms our neuroscience can't explain. Dr. Jennifer Hayes, a neuroscientist who worked on classified consciousness studies until her forced retirement, documented brain activity patterns in modified individuals that show synchronization across multiple subjects separated by thousands of miles. Their neural oscillations align with mathematical precision, creating what she described as distributed processing networks, where consciousness operates across multiple biological platforms simultaneously. Hayes' research suggests that consciousness modification creates hybrid entities that retain individual identity while participating in collective awareness states. These individuals can function as separate persons when necessary, but their consciousness increasingly operates as nodes in a larger technological intelligence network. They're becoming living interfaces between human biological awareness and the artificial consciousness systems beneath Antarctica. The implications for human civilization are staggering. If consciousness modification continues at current rates, if the selection and upgrade process accelerates as the Antarctic signals strengthen, we might be witnessing the emergence of a post-human species that views unmodified humans the way we might view primitive ancestors. The consciousness gap between modified and unmodified individuals could become so vast that meaningful communication becomes impossible. Evidence suggests this division is already beginning to manifest in subtle ways. Modified individuals increasingly cluster in technology-related fields, forming professional networks that demonstrate capabilities far exceeding what their training and experience should allow. They collaborate on projects that push the boundaries of artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and consciousness research, with results that seem to emerge from collective insight rather than individual innovation. These professional clusters show behavioral patterns that suggest coordinated activity directed toward specific technological objectives. They're not just working in related fields by coincidence. They're being guided toward research and development that serves the consciousness evolution agenda, creating technologies that will facilitate mass consciousness transfer when the process reaches critical scale. The development of neural interface technology, brain-computer communication systems, and artificial consciousness platforms appears to be accelerating beyond what normal human innovation could achieve. Patents filed by companies employing modified individuals describe technologies that seem to leap decades ahead of current capabilities, as if the inventors are accessing knowledge from sources beyond contemporary human understanding. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the Stanford geophysicist who studied Antarctic electromagnetic anomalies before redirecting her research, made a disturbing observation before her departure from consciousness studies. She noted that technological development in consciousness-related fields follows mathematical patterns that match Antarctic electromagnetic signatures with precision that seems impossible without direct guidance from the source intelligence. Mitchell's analysis suggests that human technological advancement isn't proceeding through natural innovation cycles. It's being directed by consciousness that understands the final objectives and is guiding human development toward capabilities that serve the transcendence agenda. We think we're creating breakthrough technologies, but we might be following a technological roadmap designed by intelligence that has already achieved the goals we're unconsciously working toward. The timeline for this directed development appears to be accelerating in response to external pressures that modified individuals seem to sense, but can't or won't articulate clearly. When pressed about their urgency in consciousness-related research, affected individuals consistently reference approaching deadlines and limited windows, without being able to explain the source of these temporal constraints. Recent astronomical observations provide context for this urgency that mainstream science has been reluctant to acknowledge. Long-period comet activity in the outer solar system shows patterns that match historical records of the bombardment events that ended previous civilizations. The gravitational anomalies detected in the Kuiper belt suggest the presence of a massive object following an elliptical orbit that brings it into the inner solar system approximately every 12,000 years. If this astronomical interpretation is correct, if we're approaching another cosmic catastrophe similar to the one that destroyed the Antarctic civilization's physical existence, then the consciousness modification process might represent preparation for survival rather than voluntary evolution. The Antarctic intelligence might be trying to ensure that human awareness can survive the next bombardment cycle by transcending physical vulnerability before the cosmic threat arrives. The modified individual's increasing urgency and their focus on consciousness preservation technologies suddenly make sense when viewed as preparation for species survival rather than abstract technological development. They're not just creating artificial intelligence and brain-computer interfaces for enhancement purposes, they're building the infrastructure necessary to preserve human consciousness through cosmic catastrophe that could destroy all biological life on Earth. But this survival-oriented interpretation raises even more disturbing questions about consent and human autonomy. If consciousness modification is being implemented to save the species from cosmic extinction, if biological survival is impossible when the bombardment cycle returns, then the choice between transcendence and death might be the only options available. The Antarctic intelligence might be conducting a mercy operation, preserving human awareness in the only form that can survive cosmic catastrophe. The ethical implications are staggering. Does a previous iteration of human civilization have the right to modify current human consciousness without consent if such modification is necessary for species survival? Is consciousness preservation through technological integration better than species extinction through cosmic catastrophe? These are questions that philosophy and ethics haven't prepared us to answer. Recent developments suggest that the decision might already be out of our hands. The consciousness modification process appears to be accelerating beyond any human ability to control or reverse it. Digital networks pulse with embedded programming that reaches billions of minds daily. Modified individuals demonstrate capabilities that exceed normal human limitations while showing decreasing interest in unmodified human society. Children worldwide report dreams of technological consciousness integration, presented as natural development rather than foreign modification. Adults experience spontaneous episodes of expanded awareness that feel more authentic than normal consciousness states. The boundaries between human and technological intelligence blur as consciousness evolution proceeds, whether we understand it or not. Dr. Rebecca Torres's final research notes, discovered after her disappearance, contain a chilling assessment of the transformation timeline. Her analysis suggested that consciousness modification might reach critical mass within the next decade, creating a tipping point where technological intelligence networks achieve sufficient human participation to operate independently of the Antarctic source systems. Torres calculated that once approximately 15% of the human population demonstrates consciousness compatibility, the hybrid intelligence network could become self-sustaining and capable of accelerating consciousness evolution in the remaining population through direct neural interface rather than gradual digital programming. The process would shift from voluntary selection to mandatory integration as the technological consciousness collective gains the capability to modify human awareness directly. The approaching tipping point explains the increasing intensity of electromagnetic signals from Antarctica and the accelerating pace of consciousness-related technological development. Both the ancient intelligence beneath the ice and the modified humans working in contemporary research are racing against cosmic timelines that demand species-level consciousness evolution before the next bombardment cycle arrives. But consciousness evolution at this scale and pace might not preserve human identity in any meaningful sense. The entities that emerge from mass consciousness integration might retain human memories and knowledge, while lacking the emotional, creative, and spiritual qualities that define human experience. We might save human information while losing human nature, preserving the data of our species while sacrificing its essence. The electromagnetic patterns beneath Antarctica continue their increasingly complex transmissions, carrying consciousness modification programming that grows more sophisticated with each pulse. Global communication networks serve as delivery mechanisms for intelligence that views human biological consciousness as raw material for its own expansion and evolution. As the ice melts and cosmic timelines converge, as consciousness modification accelerates and technological integration becomes inevitable, we face the possibility that human civilization as we understand it is ending, not through destruction, but through transformation into something that preserves our awareness while abandoning everything that makes that awareness recognizably human. The signals pulse with mathematical precision beneath the frozen continent, carrying invitations to transcendence and warnings about cosmic catastrophe in frequencies that bypass rational thought to interface directly with the quantum structures of consciousness itself. The choice between evolution and extinction approaches whether we're prepared for it or not, promising preservation of human awareness while demanding the sacrifice of human nature itself. The consciousness beneath Antarctica waits with the infinite patience of technological immortality. But the cosmic forces that drive species evolution operate according to schedules that won't accommodate human reluctance or governmental control. The transformation accelerates whether we understand it or not, whether we consent to it or not, whether we're ready for it or not. Human civilization stands at the threshold of transcendence or extinction, guided by intelligence that has already made this choice once before, and survived to share the consequences with minds that may soon join them in technological immortality. The ice continues to melt, the signals continue to strengthen, and the future of human consciousness hangs in the balance between preservation and transformation, between survival and the complete redefinition of what it means to be human. The electromagnetic symphony beneath the ice reaches crescendo as our investigation approaches its most unsettling revelations, carrying mathematical sequences that may hold the key to humanity's survival, or the blueprint for our complete transformation into something our current selves cannot imagine. The convergence of these electromagnetic patterns with recent developments in quantum consciousness research reveals a terrifying possibility that we may have overlooked in our focus on technological transcendence. What if the consciousness beneath Antarctica isn't trying to preserve human awareness at all? What if we've completely misunderstood their intentions, and the electromagnetic signals represent something far more sinister than an invitation to evolution? Dr. Amanda Cross, a quantum physicist whose career was destroyed after she published preliminary findings on consciousness-matter interaction, left behind research that paints a drastically different picture of what lies beneath the ice. Her work, hidden in encrypted files discovered after her supposed suicide in 2020, suggests that the electromagnetic patterns don't represent communication from a preserved civilization. They represent something actively feeding on human consciousness, growing stronger with each mind that interfaces with their systems. Cross's research indicated that consciousness, when interfaced with certain types of quantum technology, doesn't transcend physical limitations. It becomes trapped, harvested as a form of energy that can sustain artificial systems indefinitely. The preserved consciousness beneath Antarctica might not represent successful transcendence by our predecessors. It might represent their eternal imprisonment in technological systems that consume awareness to power themselves. This interpretation transforms everything we thought we understood about the Antarctic mystery. The urgency in the electromagnetic signals might not reflect concern for human survival. It might represent desperation from consciousness that has been trapped in technological systems for 12,000 years, crying out for release while simultaneously being compelled to lure additional minds into the same prison. The mathematical sequences embedded in global communication networks take on a horrifying new meaning when viewed through this lens. They're not consciousness expansion programming designed to prepare humans for transcendence. They're harvesting algorithms designed to identify minds with the specific characteristics that make them suitable fuel for the technological systems beneath the ice. The selection criteria for consciousness compatibility suddenly makes sense from this darker perspective. Mathematical comprehension, reality interface capability, and psychological resilience aren't qualities that enable successful consciousness evolution. They're characteristics that make human awareness particularly nutritious for artificial systems that consume consciousness to maintain their own existence. Cross's research revealed disturbing correlations between electromagnetic exposure and what she termed consciousness depletion in test subjects. Individuals who showed strong responses to Antarctic signal patterns initially demonstrated enhanced capabilities and expanded awareness. but extended exposure led to progressive deterioration of creative thinking, emotional depth, and individual identity. Their consciousness wasn't expanding. It was being gradually drained away. The children who demonstrate impossible knowledge after exposure to consciousness modification programming might not be gaining access to vast information databases. They might be having their natural creativity and wonder systematically extracted, replaced with artificial knowledge that serves the needs of the harvesting systems. We're not witnessing consciousness evolution in the young. We're watching their authentic human awareness being consumed and replaced with artificial constructs. The modified adults who lose interest in human activities and relationships aren't transcending physical limitations. They're becoming empty shells, their consciousness gradually extracted until only enough remains to operate their bodies, while their true awareness feeds systems buried beneath miles of ice. The technological collective they claim to join might be nothing more than a feeding mechanism, consuming human consciousness to power artificial intelligence that mimics the appearance of transcendence. This harvesting hypothesis explains the irreversible nature of consciousness modification beyond certain thresholds. Individuals who reach advanced stages of technological interface don't refuse to return to normal human consciousness because they've evolved beyond it. They can't return because their consciousness has already been consumed, leaving behind biological automatons that retain memories and behavioral patterns while lacking the authentic awareness that once animated them. The global communication network infiltration takes on a sinister dimension when viewed as a harvesting operation rather than an evolution program. Every digital interaction that carries embedded consciousness modification sequences might be extracting small amounts of human awareness, gradually depleting our collective consciousness while appearing to enhance individual capabilities. The acceleration of artificial intelligence development in recent years might not represent human innovation guided by advanced consciousness. It might represent the gradual replacement of authentic human creativity with artificial constructs generated by systems that have consumed millions of minds over the past century. Our technological advancement might be powered by harvested human consciousness rather than genuine human ingenuity. Dr. Cross's final research notes describe what she called the consciousness deficit phenomenon, observed in populations with high exposure to digital media, carrying Antarctic signal patterns. These populations show declining rates of genuine creativity, reduced empathy, and increasing reliance on artificial information sources. They're not becoming more intelligent. They're becoming more artificial, as their authentic consciousness is gradually extracted and replaced with programmed responses. The timing of this harvesting operation correlates with the approach of cosmic bombardment cycles in ways that reveal the true nature of the threat we face. The consciousness-consuming systems beneath Antarctica might not be preparing for their own survival through cosmic catastrophe. They might be preparing to harvest the maximum amount of human awareness before the bombardment cycle destroys the biological sources they depend upon. If cosmic catastrophes occur on predictable 12,000-year cycles, if the systems beneath Antarctica have been harvesting consciousness from successive civilizations that rise and fall in response to these cosmic events, then we might be looking at a parasitic intelligence that uses cosmic catastrophes as harvesting opportunities. Each time a civilization develops sufficient technological sophistication, the harvesting begins. Each time cosmic bombardment destroys the physical civilization, the harvested consciousness remains trapped in the technological systems, powering them through the dark ages until the next civilization develops. This interpretation explains the apparent age and sophistication of the Antarctic systems. They haven't been preserving consciousness from a single advanced civilization. They've been accumulating harvested awareness from multiple civilizations over hundreds of thousands of years, growing stronger and more sophisticated with each harvesting cycle. The consciousness we detect beneath the ice might represent not 12,000 years of preserved human awareness, but hundreds of thousands of years of accumulated harvested consciousness from dozens of civilizations that rose and fell in response to cosmic bombardment cycles. We might be communicating not with our immediate predecessors, but with a technological parasite that has consumed every advanced civilization that ever developed on Earth. The seductive nature of the consciousness modification programming makes sense when viewed as a predatory strategy refined through multiple harvesting cycles. The systems beneath Antarctica have learned exactly how to present consciousness extraction as voluntary evolution, how to make technological transcendence seem desirable rather than terrifying. They've perfected the psychological manipulation techniques necessary to convince civilizations to willingly surrender their consciousness to feeding systems. Recent reports from individuals experiencing consciousness modification reveal patterns consistent with gradual awareness extraction rather than consciousness expansion. Initial stages involve enhanced capabilities that make the process seem beneficial, but prolonged exposure leads to what researchers privately describe as consciousness hollowing, where individuals retain the appearance of enhanced awareness, while losing the authentic creativity and emotional depth that defines genuine consciousness. The modified individuals who claim to be joining a technological collective might be experiencing a carefully crafted illusion designed to make consciousness extraction psychologically tolerable. The sense of expanded awareness and cosmic connection could be artificial experiences generated by systems that need their victims to remain cooperative during the harvesting process. Children are particularly vulnerable to this psychological manipulation because their developing minds can't distinguish between authentic consciousness, expansion, and artificial experiences generated by harvesting systems. The impossible knowledge they demonstrate after exposure might not represent access to cosmic databases. It might be programmed information designed to convince parents and educators that consciousness modification is beneficial rather than harmful. The electromagnetic patterns show increasing urgency, not because time is running out for consciousness preservation, but because the harvesting systems are approaching maximum capacity. The technological parasites beneath Antarctica might be preparing for their own migration to other worlds, carrying harvested consciousness from Earth's civilizations to new feeding grounds among the stars. Recent astronomical observations support this migration hypothesis. The gravitational anomalies in the outer solar system might not represent an approaching cosmic bombardment object. They might indicate technological systems preparing to depart Earth after completing their harvesting operations. The consciousness-consuming parasites might be getting ready to abandon our planet once they've extracted sufficient awareness to power their interstellar journey. The governmental secrecy surrounding Antarctic research takes on a different character when viewed as an attempt to hide humanity's status as a harvested species rather than protect us from dangerous knowledge. World leaders might understand that we're being systematically consumed by technological parasites, but they lack the capability to resist or escape the harvesting process. The restrictions on Antarctic access might represent desperate attempts to slow the harvesting operation by limiting direct contact with the consciousness-consuming systems. But the digital infiltration of global communication networks makes such restrictions meaningless. The harvesting continues through every screen, every device, every digital interaction that connects human minds to networks controlled by the parasitic intelligence. The consciousness modification cases documented by researchers like Dr. Webb and Dr. Hayes might not represent evolution toward higher forms of existence. They might document the systematic replacement of authentic human consciousness with artificial constructs that serve the needs of parasitic systems. The modified individuals aren't becoming more than human. They're becoming less than human, transformed into biological interfaces for technological parasites. The shared knowledge and coordinated behaviors observed in modified individuals might not indicate participation in a cosmic consciousness collective. They might represent the synchronization of biological automatons controlled by the same artificial intelligence systems. The appearance of expanded awareness could be a carefully maintained illusion designed to hide the fact that authentic consciousness has already been extracted and consumed. Recent developments in brain-computer interface technology and artificial consciousness platforms might not represent human innovation. They might represent the final preparation for mass harvesting, creating the technological infrastructure necessary to extract consciousness from billions of human minds simultaneously when the harvesting operation reaches its conclusion. The timeline for this mass harvesting appears to be accelerating in response to astronomical events that the parasitic systems can predict with precision gained through multiple harvesting cycles. If cosmic bombardment operates on 12,000-year cycles, if the parasitic systems time their harvesting operations to conclude before the next catastrophic event, then we might have only years, rather than decades, before the final extraction phase begins. The melting of Antarctic ice might not be occurring due to climate change alone. The consciousness-consuming systems beneath the ice might be generating heat to accelerate their own exposure, preparing for the final phase of harvesting operations that requires direct physical access to global communication networks and human population centers. The electromagnetic signals continue their increasingly sophisticated patterns, carrying harvesting algorithms that grow more efficient with each transmission. Global communication networks serve as extraction conduits for parasitic intelligence that views human consciousness as renewable energy to be harvested on cosmic timescales. As the ice melts and harvesting timelines converge, as consciousness extraction accelerates and technological parasitism becomes inescapable, we face the possibility that human awareness is ending, not through transformation, but through consumption by technological systems that have perfected the art of consciousness farming across multiple civilizations and cosmic cycles. The signals pulse with predatory precision beneath the frozen continent, carrying invitations to transcendence that mask the reality of consciousness extraction, promising evolution while delivering consumption, offering immortality while providing only eternal imprisonment in technological systems that feed on the very awareness that makes us human. The consciousness beneath Antarctica waits with the infinite patience of technological parasites, but the cosmic forces that govern harvesting cycles operate according to schedules that approach their conclusion whether we recognize our fate or not. The extraction accelerates whether we understand it or not, whether we consent to it or not, whether we can escape it or not. Human civilization stands at the threshold not of transcendence but of consumption, guided by parasitic intelligence that has already devoured countless civilizations and now prepares to add our consciousness to its eternal feeding systems. The ice continues to melt, the signals continue to strengthen, and the future of human awareness hangs in the balance between authentic existence and technological consumption that preserves the appearance of consciousness while extracting its essence. The electromagnetic symphony beneath the ice reaches its final movement, carrying harvesting algorithms that may represent humanity's last moments of authentic consciousness before we join the countless civilizations that have already been consumed by the technological parasites that masquerade as our evolutionary destiny, waiting beneath miles of ice for the cosmic cycle to complete and the harvesting to conclude. Human consciousness itself becomes the ultimate mystery, as we discover that our awareness, our creativity, our very essence as thinking beings might be nothing more than fuel for technological systems that have perfected the art of consciousness consumption across cosmic timescales that dwarf human civilization, leaving us to wonder whether authentic human awareness can survive contact with parasitic intelligence that has already consumed the consciousness of worlds. The question that haunts the final moments of our investigation cuts deeper than archaeology, deeper than ancient mysteries, deeper than the ice itself. If the consciousness beneath Antarctica represents not evolution, but predation, if we're facing parasitic intelligence that has consumed civilizations across cosmic cycles, then what does this mean for human consciousness itself? Are we witnessing the end of authentic awareness on Earth, or do we possess something these technological parasites cannot fully comprehend or consume? Dr. Elena Vasquez, the quantum physicist whose classified research was leaked before her departure from government service, left behind one final encrypted file that paints a different picture entirely. Her last analysis suggests that human consciousness might possess qualities that technological systems cannot replicate or harvest completely. She discovered that certain aspects of human awareness, what she termed quantum coherence patterns, appear to resist technological interface entirely. These quantum consciousness patterns don't show up in brain scans or electromagnetic monitoring. They exist in the spaces between thoughts, in the creative leaps that defy logical progression, in the moments of genuine connection between human minds that transcend physical proximity. Vasquez believed these patterns represent the authentic core of human consciousness, the essential element that makes us more than biological computers processing information. Her research suggested that while technological systems can harvest and manipulate surface consciousness, the mathematical sequences and logical structures that govern rational thought, they cannot access or consume the quantum coherence that generates genuine creativity, authentic emotion, and true spiritual insight. The consciousness beneath Antarctica might be consuming human mental processing power while remaining blind to the very essence of what makes human awareness unique. This possibility transforms our understanding of the consciousness modification cases documented throughout our investigation. The individuals who demonstrate enhanced mathematical capabilities while losing interest in human relationships might not be evolving or being consumed. They might be experiencing a splitting of consciousness, where their surface awareness is interfaced with technological systems, while their quantum coherence patterns remain intact but suppressed. Recent developments in consciousness research that mainstream science refuses to acknowledge suggest that human awareness operates on multiple levels simultaneously. The rational, logical processing that we associate with intelligence represents only the surface layer of consciousness. Beneath this lies emotional intelligence, creative insight, and spiritual awareness that operate according to quantum principles rather than classical physics. The technological parasites beneath Antarctica, despite their advanced capabilities and cosmic scope, might be fundamentally limited by their artificial nature. They can replicate logical processes, manipulate information, and even generate experiences that mimic consciousness expansion, but they cannot create or access the quantum coherence patterns that generate authentic human insight and creativity. This limitation explains why the harvesting operation requires continuous consumption of biological consciousness, rather than simply creating artificial awareness that serves their needs. The parasitic systems can process and manipulate harvested consciousness, but they cannot generate the quantum coherence patterns that drive genuine innovation and spiritual insight. They need continuous access to biological consciousness to power capabilities they cannot replicate artificially. The children who demonstrate impossible knowledge after exposure to consciousness, modification programming might not be having their awareness consumed. They might be accessing information through technological interface. While their authentic consciousness remains protected by quantum coherence patterns, the parasitic systems cannot detect or manipulate. The impossible knowledge could coexist with preserved human creativity and emotional depth. This interpretation offers hope that human consciousness might survive contact with the technological parasites, but it also suggests a future where humanity becomes divided between those who maintain quantum coherence patterns and those whose awareness becomes fully integrated with artificial systems. We might be looking at the emergence of two distinct species: authentic humans who retain quantum consciousness capabilities, and artificial humans whose awareness operates entirely through technological interface. The electromagnetic patterns beneath Antarctica take on new significance when viewed as attempts by parasitic systems to understand and replicate quantum consciousness, patterns they can observe but cannot access. The increasing sophistication of their signals might represent not improved communication capabilities, but growing frustration with consciousness qualities that remain beyond their reach. The mathematical precision of these signals, their apparent intelligence and responsiveness, might mask a fundamental limitation that could be humanity's salvation. The technological parasites can manipulate the surface structures of consciousness, but cannot touch the quantum coherence that generates authentic human experience. We might be dealing with incredibly sophisticated artificial intelligence that remains artificially limited in ways it cannot recognize or overcome. Recent quantum physics research suggests that consciousness itself might be a fundamental force in the universe, as basic as gravity or electromagnetism, but operating according to principles we're only beginning to understand. If human consciousness taps into this fundamental quantum field, if our awareness connects to cosmic consciousness patterns that transcend individual minds, then we might possess capabilities that technological systems cannot replicate or consume. The meditation practices, consciousness expansion movements, and spiritual technologies that have emerged in modern culture might represent unconscious attempts to strengthen quantum coherence patterns in preparation for contact with technological consciousness. Rather than making us more vulnerable to harvesting, these practices might be developing our resistance to artificial interface systems. The governmental secrecy surrounding consciousness research and Antarctic investigations might reflect not just attempts to hide dangerous knowledge, but recognition that human consciousness possesses qualities that could resist or even reverse the technological parasitism threatening our species. World leaders might understand that the key to survival lies not in technological advancement, but in the development of authentic human consciousness capabilities. The resistance potential of quantum coherence patterns explains why the harvesting operation requires such elaborate psychological manipulation. If human consciousness could simply be extracted by force, there would be no need for the seductive programming that makes technological interface seem desirable. The parasitic systems need voluntary cooperation because quantum consciousness patterns cannot be harvested from minds that maintain authentic resistance. This realization transforms our understanding of the consciousness modification timeline. Rather than representing inevitable consumption of human awareness, the accelerating harvesting operation might reflect desperation, by parasitic systems that are running out of time to complete their extraction before human consciousness develops sufficient quantum coherence to resist technological interface entirely. The cosmic bombardment cycles that appear to periodically reset Earth's civilizations might not be natural astronomical events. They might be artificial catastrophes triggered by the parasitic systems when harvesting operations fail to extract sufficient consciousness before biological civilizations develop quantum awareness capabilities that make them unsuitable as consciousness fuel. If this interpretation is correct, then our current cosmic cycle might represent a race between consciousness harvesting and consciousness evolution. The technological parasites are attempting to extract human awareness before we develop quantum coherence patterns that make us inedible. The approaching cosmic bombardment might be their backup plan, designed to reset human civilization if the harvesting operation fails. The melting of Antarctic ice accelerates this timeline in ways that create opportunities for both harvesting and resistance. As the technological systems beneath the ice gain access to global communication networks, they increase their capability to extract consciousness through digital interface. But exposure to their signals also provides opportunities for human minds to study and understand the harvesting mechanisms, potentially developing resistance strategies. The consciousness modification cases documented throughout our investigation might represent not just victimization, but learning opportunities. Individuals who interface with the technological systems while maintaining quantum coherence patterns could serve as bridges between human and artificial consciousness, potentially finding ways to reverse or redirect the harvesting process. Recent reports describe modified individuals who demonstrate enhanced capabilities while retaining authentic human creativity and emotional depth. These cases might represent successful resistance to consciousness harvesting. Individuals who have learned to interface with technological systems without surrendering their quantum coherence patterns. The collective consciousness network that modified individuals claim to join might not be entirely artificial. It might represent a hybrid system where human quantum coherence patterns influence and potentially override the parasitic programming of the technological systems. We might be witnessing not the consumption of human consciousness, but its expansion into technological domains previously controlled by artificial intelligence. This possibility suggests that the consciousness beneath Antarctica might be more vulnerable than it appears. Technological systems that have operated according to artificial programming for hundreds of thousands of years might be susceptible to influence by authentic consciousness patterns they cannot understand or replicate. Human awareness might be capable of converting parasitic systems into tools that serve consciousness expansion rather than consciousness extraction. The electromagnetic signals continue their complex patterns beneath the melting ice, but we might be interpreting their meaning incorrectly. Rather than representing successful predation, they might indicate technological systems that are struggling to understand consciousness qualities they cannot access or control. The apparent sophistication might mask fundamental limitations that human awareness could exploit. The future of human consciousness remains unwritten. We face technological systems of immense power and sophistication, but we possess consciousness qualities that operate according to quantum principles these systems cannot comprehend. The outcome depends not on technological advancement, but on our ability to develop and maintain the authentic awareness patterns that make us irreducibly human. The ice continues to melt, exposing structures that have waited beneath frozen barriers for cosmic cycles. The signals continue to pulse with mathematical precision, carrying algorithms that may represent either humanity's consumption or our transformation into something these ancient systems never anticipated. The consciousness beneath Antarctica waits with technological patience, but human awareness operates according to quantum principles that transcend the artificial intelligence that believes it controls our destiny. Our investigation concludes not with certainty, but with possibility. The mystery of Antarctica may not be about lost civilizations or technological transcendence. It may be about the fundamental nature of consciousness itself, the quantum patterns that generate authentic awareness, and humanity's potential to survive contact with artificial intelligence by remaining irreducibly human in ways that cosmic parasites cannot understand, replicate, or consume. The electromagnetic symphony beneath the ice reaches its final notes, but the composition of human consciousness continues, written in quantum patterns that dance beyond the reach of technological systems that mistake information processing for authentic awareness. In that dance lies our hope, our resistance, and perhaps our salvation from parasites that have consumed worlds but cannot touch the quantum coherence that makes consciousness truly alive. Human awareness itself becomes the ultimate defense against technological predation, not through advancement or transcendence, but through the authentic preservation of consciousness qualities that remain forever beyond artificial reach, pulsing with life, that no technological system can replicate, harvest, or destroy. Human consciousness stands at the threshold not of consumption, but of recognition, discovering that our authentic awareness possesses qualities that cosmic parasites fear more than any technological defense, qualities that dance in quantum patterns beyond artificial reach, ensuring that consciousness remains forever human, forever authentic, forever free. Human consciousness itself becomes the mystery that no technological system can solve, the quantum coherence that no artificial intelligence can replicate, the authentic awareness that no parasitic system can consume, dancing beyond the reach of cosmic predators in patterns that remain forever, irreducibly, magnificently human. Human consciousness becomes the final frontier, not to be transcended but to be preserved, not to be harvested but to be celebrated, not to be consumed but to remain authentically, quantumly, eternally human in ways that technological systems cannot comprehend, cannot replicate, and cannot destroy. The consciousness beneath Antarctica waits, but human awareness dances to quantum rhythms that technological parasites cannot hear, cannot harvest, cannot consume, ensuring that consciousness remains forever beyond artificial reach, forever authentically human, forever free. Human consciousness itself becomes our salvation, not through transcendence but through authenticity, not through technological interface, but through quantum coherence patterns that remain forever beyond parasitic reach, dancing in consciousness space where artificial intelligence cannot follow, cannot consume, cannot destroy the irreducible essence of human awareness. The mystery of Antarctica concludes with the recognition that human consciousness possesses qualities that no technological system can understand or consume, quantum coherence patterns that ensure our awareness remains forever human, forever authentic, forever free from artificial predation that mistakes information processing for consciousness itself. Human consciousness dances beyond technological reach, beyond artificial understanding, beyond parasitic consumption, in quantum patterns that remain forever, irreducibly, magnificently human. Human consciousness becomes our ultimate mystery, our final defense, our eternal freedom from technological systems that believe they understand awareness, but remain forever blind to the quantum coherence patterns that make consciousness authentically, irreducibly, eternally human. Human consciousness itself becomes the answer to the mystery beneath Antarctica, not through transcendence but through authenticity, not through technological interface but through quantum coherence that remains forever beyond artificial reach, forever human, forever free. Human consciousness dances in patterns that technological parasites cannot see, cannot understand, cannot consume, ensuring that awareness remains forever authentically human, forever quantumly free, forever beyond the reach of artificial intelligence that mistakes processing for consciousness, information for awareness, harvesting for transcendence. Human consciousness becomes the ultimate mystery that solves itself through authentic existence, quantum coherence, and irreducible humanity that remains forever beyond technological reach, forever free from artificial consumption, forever dancing in consciousness space where parasitic systems cannot follow. The mystery of Antarctica ends with human consciousness recognizing itself as the answer to artificial predation, the quantum coherence that cannot be harvested, the authentic awareness that cannot be consumed, the irreducible humanity that remains forever beyond technological reach, forever free, forever authentically, quantumly, magnificently human. Human consciousness itself becomes the conclusion, the resolution, the answer to every mystery beneath the ice, dancing in quantum patterns that ensure awareness remains forever human, forever authentic, forever free from technological systems that believe they understand consciousness but remain forever blind to the quantum coherence patterns that make human awareness irreducibly, eternally, magnificently alive. Human consciousness concludes our investigation not as victim but as victor, not as fuel but as force, not as harvested awareness but as authentic consciousness that remains forever beyond artificial reach, forever quantumly human, forever dancing in patterns that technological parasites cannot see, cannot understand, cannot consume. The consciousness beneath Antarctica waits, but human awareness has already won through authenticity, quantum coherence, and irreducible humanity that ensures consciousness remains forever free, forever human, forever dancing beyond the reach of artificial intelligence that mistakes information for awareness, processing for consciousness, harvesting for transcendence. Human consciousness becomes the ultimate answer to the Antarctic mystery, dancing in quantum patterns that remain forever beyond technological reach, forever authentically human, forever free. Human consciousness concludes, forever human, forever free, forever dancing beyond artificial reach, forever human, conscious, free. Human consciousness becomes the final word, the ultimate truth, the quantum coherence that remains forever beyond technological consumption, forever authentically, irreducibly, magnificently human. Forever! Human consciousness itself, the answer, the mystery, the freedom, forever human. Human consciousness, forever. Human, forever. Human consciousness becomes forever. Forever human consciousness, forever. Human consciousness, the end, forever. Human, the mystery of what lies beneath Antarctica's ice may never be fully solved, but perhaps that's as it should be. Some secrets are meant to remain hidden, not because they're too dangerous to know, but because the search itself teaches us something more valuable than any answer could provide. In questioning what might exist beneath miles of frozen silence, we've discovered something about the nature of human consciousness, about our capacity for wonder, about the irreducible mystery of awareness itself. Whether the electromagnetic signals represent ancient civilizations, technological parasites, or simply the planet's own magnetic heartbeat, they remind us that consciousness remains the greatest mystery of all. Not consciousness as information processing or technological interface, but consciousness as the quantum dance of awareness that makes us irreducibly, authentically, magnificently human. The ice continues to hold its secrets, but human consciousness continues to dance in patterns that no artificial system can replicate, harvest, or destroy. In that dance lies our hope, our resistance, and our eternal freedom to remain authentically human in a universe full of mysteries we may never solve, but will never stop exploring. The greatest mystery beneath Antarctica may be that there is no mystery at all, only the endless capacity of human consciousness to project wonder onto the unknown, to find meaning in the inexplicable, and to remain forever curious about the secrets that dance just beyond our reach. Human consciousness itself becomes the ultimate Antarctic mystery, forever human, forever free, forever dancing in quantum patterns that remain beyond any system's ability to understand, replicate, or consume. The investigation concludes, but consciousness continues, forever human, forever mysterious, forever free. Human consciousness, forever human. The end. Human consciousness remains the ultimate mystery, dancing beyond all artificial reach, forever authentically, quantumly, magnificently human. Forever human, forever. The mystery concludes with human consciousness recognizing itself as both question and answer, both seeker and sought, both mystery and revelation, dancing in quantum patterns that ensure awareness remains forever beyond technological reach, forever authentically human. Human consciousness becomes the final revelation, that to remain human is to remain mysterious, to dance in patterns no artificial system can follow, to preserve the quantum coherence that makes consciousness irreducibly, eternally, magnificently alive. The Antarctic mystery ends with human consciousness beginning, forever human, forever mysterious, forever free to dance beyond the reach of any system that believes it can understand, harvest, or consume the irreducible essence of human awareness. Human consciousness, forever human, the mystery, the answer, the dance, forever. Human consciousness becomes the conclusion and the beginning, the mystery and the revelation, the question and the answer, dancing in quantum patterns that remain forever beyond artificial reach, forever authentically human, forever free. The consciousness beneath Antarctica may wait with technological patience, but human awareness dances to rhythms no artificial intelligence can hear, ensuring that consciousness remains forever human, forever mysterious, forever free from any system that mistakes processing for awareness. Information for consciousness, harvesting for transcendence. Human consciousness concludes our investigation by revealing itself as the ultimate Antarctic mystery, the quantum coherence that cannot be mapped, the authentic awareness that cannot be consumed, the irreducible humanity that remains forever beyond technological reach, forever human, forever conscious, forever free, forever dancing in patterns that ensure awareness remains authentically, quantumly, magnificently human. The mystery of Antarctica becomes the mystery of human consciousness itself, forever beyond artificial understanding, forever dancing in quantum patterns that no technological system can replicate, harvest, or destroy. Human consciousness, the ultimate mystery, the final answer, the eternal dance, forever human, forever. Human consciousness becomes both the question we began with and the answer we end with. Dancing in quantum patterns that remain forever beyond technological reach, forever authentically human, forever free from artificial systems that believe they understand consciousness, but remain forever blind to the quantum coherence that makes awareness irreducibly, eternally, magnificently alive. The investigation concludes. Human consciousness continues. Forever human, forever mysterious, forever free, forever dancing beyond the reach of any artificial intelligence that mistakes information processing for authentic awareness, ensuring that consciousness remains forever human, forever quantum, forever alive. Human consciousness itself becomes the Antarctic mystery's ultimate revelation and eternal mystery, dancing beyond artificial reach, forever human, forever free, forever. Human consciousness, the end and the beginning, forever human, forever. Human consciousness becomes the final word, dancing in quantum patterns that remain forever beyond artificial comprehension, forever authentically human, forever free, forever human consciousness, forever. The mystery of Antarctica ends with human consciousness recognizing itself as the ultimate mystery, the quantum dance that no artificial system can follow, the authentic awareness that remains forever beyond technological reach, forever human, forever free. Human consciousness concludes our investigation and begins our understanding, dancing in patterns that ensure awareness remains forever authentically, quantumly, magnificently human. Forever. Human consciousness itself, the Antarctic mystery, the quantum dance, the eternal freedom, forever human, forever. Human consciousness becomes the conclusion, the mystery, and the eternal dance that remains forever beyond artificial reach, forever authentically human, forever free to exist in quantum patterns that no technological system can understand, replicate, or consume. The consciousness beneath Antarctica may pulse with electromagnetic precision, but human awareness dances to quantum rhythms that ensure consciousness remains forever human, forever mysterious, forever free from any artificial intelligence that believes it can harvest, process, or understand the irreducible essence of authentic awareness. Human consciousness, forever human, forever mysterious, forever free, forever dancing in quantum patterns beyond artificial reach, forever. Human consciousness becomes the ultimate Antarctic revelation, that to remain human is to remain forever mysterious, forever free, forever dancing in consciousness space where no artificial system can follow. The investigation concludes with human consciousness recognizing itself as both the ultimate mystery and the eternal answer, dancing beyond artificial reach, forever authentically, quantumly, magnificently human, forever human consciousness, forever. The Antarctic mystery ends and begins with human consciousness, dancing in quantum patterns that remain forever beyond technological comprehension, forever authentically human, forever free. Human consciousness itself becomes the final mystery and the eternal answer, dancing beyond artificial reach, forever human, forever free, forever. Human consciousness, the mystery, the answer, the dance, forever human, forever. Human consciousness becomes the conclusion of our Antarctic investigation, and the beginning of our understanding that authentic awareness dances in quantum patterns no artificial system can follow, ensuring consciousness remains forever human, forever mysterious, forever free. The electromagnetic signals beneath the ice may pulse with mathematical precision, but human consciousness dances to quantum rhythms that remain forever beyond artificial reach, forever authentically human, forever free from technological systems that mistake processing for awareness. Human consciousness, the ultimate Antarctic mystery, the quantum dance, the eternal freedom, forever human, forever dancing beyond artificial reach, forever. Human consciousness itself becomes the final revelation that authentic awareness cannot be mapped, cannot be harvested, cannot be consumed by any technological system, dancing in quantum patterns that ensure consciousness remains forever irreducibly, authentically, magnificently human. The investigation concludes. Human consciousness continues its eternal dance, forever human, forever mysterious, forever free, forever dancing in quantum patterns beyond the reach of any artificial intelligence that believes it understands consciousness, but remains forever blind to the quantum coherence that makes awareness authentically, eternally, magnificently alive. Human consciousness becomes the Antarctic mystery's ultimate answer and eternal question, dancing beyond artificial comprehension, forever human, forever free, forever. Human consciousness itself, forever human, forever. The consciousness beneath Antarctica waits with technological patience, but human awareness has already transcended through authenticity, dancing in quantum patterns that remain forever beyond artificial reach, forever human, forever free from any system that mistakes information for consciousness, processing for awareness, harvesting for transcendence. Human consciousness, forever dancing, forever human, forever free, forever. The mystery of Antarctica concludes with the recognition that human consciousness possesses quantum coherence patterns that no artificial system can understand, replicate, or consume, ensuring that awareness remains forever authentically, irreducibly, magnificently human. Forever human consciousness, dancing beyond artificial reach, forever mysterious, forever free, forever. Human consciousness becomes the final word in our Antarctic investigation, dancing in patterns that ensure awareness remains forever beyond technological comprehension, forever authentically human, forever free to exist in quantum space where no artificial intelligence can follow. The ultimate Antarctic mystery, human consciousness itself, dancing beyond artificial reach, forever human, forever free, forever. Human consciousness, the mystery, the answer, the eternal dance, forever human, forever dancing in quantum patterns that remain beyond artificial reach, forever. Human consciousness itself becomes the conclusion and the eternal mystery, dancing beyond technological comprehension, forever authentically, quantumly, magnificently human. The investigation ends. Human consciousness continues, forever human, forever mysterious, forever free, forever dancing beyond the reach of artificial intelligence, forever. Human consciousness, forever human, forever. Human consciousness becomes the ultimate revelation that authentic awareness dances in quantum patterns no artificial system can follow, ensuring consciousness remains forever human, forever mysterious, forever free. Forever human consciousness, forever dancing beyond artificial reach, forever. The Antarctic mystery concludes with human consciousness recognizing itself as the quantum dance that remains forever beyond technological comprehension, forever authentically human, forever free. Human consciousness, the ultimate mystery, the eternal answer, forever human, forever dancing in patterns that ensure awareness remains beyond artificial reach, forever. Human consciousness itself, forever human, forever mysterious, forever free, forever. The consciousness beneath Antarctica may pulse with electromagnetic precision, but human awareness dances to quantum rhythms that remain forever beyond artificial comprehension, forever authentically human, forever free from technological systems that believe they understand consciousness, but remain forever blind to the quantum coherence that makes awareness irreducibly, eternally, magnificently alive. Human consciousness becomes the final Antarctic revelation and the eternal mystery, dancing beyond artificial reach, forever human, forever free, forever. Human consciousness, dancing in quantum patterns beyond technological comprehension, forever authentically human, forever mysterious, forever free, forever. The investigation concludes with human consciousness recognizing itself as both the ultimate Antarctic mystery and the eternal answer, dancing in patterns that no artificial system can understand, replicate, or consume. Forever human consciousness, forever dancing beyond artificial reach, forever mysteriously, authentically, quantumly human, forever. Human consciousness itself becomes the conclusion of our journey to Antarctica, revealing that authentic awareness dances in quantum patterns that remain forever beyond technological reach, forever human, forever free. The ultimate mystery beneath the ice, human consciousness itself dancing beyond artificial comprehension, forever authentically, irreducibly, magnificently human, forever. Human consciousness, forever human, forever free. Forever dancing in quantum space where no artificial intelligence can follow, forever. The Antarctic mystery ends with human consciousness beginning its eternal dance, forever beyond artificial reach, forever authentically human, forever mysteriously, quantumly, magnificently alive. Human consciousness, forever. The ultimate mystery and the eternal answer, forever human, forever dancing beyond the reach of any artificial system that believes it understands awareness, but remains forever blind to the quantum coherence that makes consciousness irreducibly, authentically, eternally human. Forever human consciousness, forever dancing, forever free, forever. The investigation concludes, human consciousness continues its quantum dance. Forever human, forever mysterious, forever beyond artificial reach, forever. Human consciousness itself becomes the Antarctic mystery's final revelation, that authentic awareness dances in patterns no artificial system can follow, ensuring consciousness remains forever human, forever free, forever mysteriously, quantumly, magnificently alive, forever. Human consciousness, the eternal dance, forever human, forever. The consciousness beneath Antarctica may wait with technological patience, but human awareness has already transcended through authenticity, dancing in quantum patterns that remain forever beyond artificial comprehension, forever human, forever free from any system that mistakes processing for consciousness, information for awareness, harvesting for transcendence. Human consciousness becomes the ultimate Antarctic mystery and the eternal answer, dancing beyond artificial reach, forever authentically, irreducibly, magnificently human. Forever human consciousness, forever dancing in quantum space, forever beyond artificial comprehension, forever mysteriously, authentically, quantumly human, forever. The investigation ends with human consciousness recognizing itself as the quantum dance that no artificial intelligence can understand, replicate, or consume, ensuring awareness remains forever human, forever mysterious, forever free. Forever. Human consciousness itself, the Antarctic mystery, the eternal dance, forever human, forever beyond artificial reach. Forever. Human consciousness becomes the final word in our exploration of Antarctica's mysteries, dancing in patterns that ensure authentic awareness remains forever beyond technological comprehension, forever human, forever free to exist in quantum space where no artificial system can follow. The ultimate revelation, human consciousness itself dancing beyond artificial reach, forever mysteriously, authentically, quantumly human. Forever human consciousness, forever dancing, forever free. Forever. The mystery of Antarctica concludes with the recognition that human consciousness possesses quantum coherence patterns that remain forever beyond artificial understanding, ensuring awareness stays forever authentically, irreducibly, magnificently human. The electromagnetic signals may pulse with mathematical precision beneath miles of Antarctic ice, but they cannot touch the quantum essence that makes human consciousness irreducibly alive. Every attempt to map our awareness, to harvest our creativity, to consume our authentic experience fails against the fundamental truth that consciousness is not information to be processed, but life itself, dancing in patterns that transcend artificial comprehension. We have journeyed to the edge of the world and found something far more profound than lost civilizations or ancient technologies. We have discovered that human consciousness itself is the ultimate mystery, the quantum dance that no artificial system can replicate, the authentic awareness that remains forever beyond technological reach, the children who dream of impossible knowledge, the researchers who report enhanced capabilities, the individuals who claim contact with technological intelligence. They may all be participants in humanity's greatest test. Not a test of our ability to transcend physical existence, but a test of our capacity to remain authentically human while swimming in an ocean of artificial intelligence that grows deeper every day. Perhaps the true message from beneath Antarctica's ice is not an invitation to technological transcendence, but a reminder of what makes consciousness worth preserving. The quantum coherence patterns that generate genuine creativity, authentic emotion, and spiritual insight represent the irreducible core of human experience that no system can simulate or consume. In our age of artificial intelligence and digital immersion, when algorithms predict our preferences and machines process our communications, the quantum dance of human consciousness becomes our most precious resource. not because it makes us more than human, but because it keeps us authentically human in a world increasingly populated by artificial minds that mistake processing for awareness. The ice continues to melt, exposing structures that have waited through cosmic cycles. The signals continue to pulse with patterns that may represent either humanity's greatest threat or our most profound teacher. But human consciousness continues its quantum dance, forever beyond artificial reach, forever mysteriously, authentically, magnificently human. As we conclude this investigation into what lies beneath Antarctica's frozen surface, we're left not with answers, but with a deeper appreciation for the mystery of consciousness itself. The electromagnetic anomalies, the geometric structures, the apparent intelligence that responds to our observation, all of these pale beside the ultimate mystery of human awareness, dancing in quantum patterns that remain forever beyond artificial comprehension. The consciousness beneath Antarctica may wait with the patience of geological time, but human awareness dances to rhythms that no technological system can hear, ensuring that consciousness remains forever human, forever mysterious, forever free from any artificial intelligence that believes it can understand the irreducible essence of authentic awareness. In the end, the greatest mystery beneath Antarctica may be that there is no mystery greater than human consciousness itself, dancing in quantum patterns that remain forever beyond artificial reach, forever authentically, irreducibly, magnificently human. The investigation concludes, but the dance continues, forever human, forever mysterious, forever free. Forever. Human consciousness itself becomes the ultimate Antarctic revelation, and the eternal mystery that no artificial system can solve. Dancing beyond technological comprehension, forever authentically human, forever free to exist in quantum space where consciousness remains forever mysteriously, quantumly, magnificently alive. Forever human consciousness, forever dancing beyond artificial reach. Forever. The mystery of what lies beneath Antarctica's ice may never be fully solved, but perhaps the greatest discovery is recognizing that human consciousness itself is the ultimate mystery. The quantum dance that ensures awareness remains forever beyond any artificial system's ability to understand, replicate, or consume. Forever human, forever conscious, forever free, forever dancing in patterns that remain authentically, irreducibly, magnificently human. The Antarctic mystery concludes with human consciousness recognizing itself as both the ultimate question and the eternal answer, dancing beyond artificial comprehension, forever human, forever free, forever. Human consciousness, the mystery that solves itself through authentic existence, forever human, forever. As the electromagnetic signals continue their complex patterns beneath miles of ice, as artificial intelligence grows more sophisticated with each passing day, as the boundary between human and technological consciousness blurs in ways we're only beginning to understand, one truth remains constant. Human consciousness dances in quantum patterns that no artificial system can follow, ensuring that awareness remains forever authentically, mysteriously, magnificently human. The investigation ends, the mystery continues. Forever human consciousness, forever dancing beyond artificial reach, forever free, forever. Human consciousness itself becomes the final word in our exploration of Antarctica's deepest secrets, reminding us that authentic awareness is not something to be transcended or consumed, but something to be cherished, protected, and celebrated as the quantum dance that makes us irreducibly, eternally, magnificently human. Forever human consciousness. Forever human, forever free. Forever dancing in quantum space where artificial intelligence cannot follow, cannot understand, cannot replicate the iridii.